All right, 3 o'clock, Chad here. What's up, my friends? It's a Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday. Listen to Dwight and Chad today for your chance to win tickets to an upcoming game. The Trailblazers dropped their first road game last night down in Sacramento. DeAndre Ayton has opened the season with 4 straight double-doubles. Portland is back at it tomorrow night. First trip to the Intuit Dome in Los Angeles to meet the Clippers. That tip-off at 7:30. Chris Burkhardt will have game day at 5:30, and it's on your home of the Trailblazers, 620 Rip City Radio, presented by Coors Light. Elsewhere, we check out the Diamond.
A 1-2 offering from Schmidt. Freddie swings and belts the ball right field, hooking toward the corner. Hello, short porch, and hello, Freddie Freeman.
Dodgers double up the Yankees 4-2. They take a commanding 3-0 lead. Game 4 at Yankee Stadium tonight. First pitch is at 5:08 on Fox. Kasparias and Gill is your pitching matchup. Elsewhere, from the NFL, the Colts have benched Anthony Richardson and turned to the ageless man, Joe Flacco.
A 1-2 offering from Schmidt. Freddie swings and belts the ball right field, hooking toward the corner. Hello, short porch, and hello, Freddie Freeman. For a third straight game in this World Series, 5 straight World Series games overall, Freddie Freeman goes deep.
Boy, Shacker's on fire today to kick off the show. What's going on, my friends? Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. Brian No, Fox Sports Radio, will be in studio at 5 o'clock. And you've got an event tonight, the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame banquet or get-together or event. What's going on?
It's the induction ceremony where we induct a few new members.
I haven't gotten the call yet. I thought that I was going to be inducted, man. I thought you had me on this one.
Well, it was really close.
Yeah, okay, good. That's all I needed to know.
Really close, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Barney Keep beat you out.
Did you
former KEX morning man.
Did you get a special, jacket or just the ring? No, yellow jacket
I didn't
or anything?
get the ring, no. No, somebody else paid for the ring for me. I got a platter. They give you a platter, a silver platter.
It was nice, though, a silver platter. I saw it. It looks good. You've got it hanging up in your crib.
Yeah.
But you had to pay for the ring? That's not right.
I didn't pay for it. Somebody else did.
It's like a class ring. It's like, wait a second, Washington State. I spent all of that money to go to school and get an education, and you make me buy the class ring?
Exactly.
I feel like I'm getting punked here. What's up with that?
No kidding.
All right, Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday. Every Tuesday throughout the entire season, we, courtesy of the Portland Trailblazers, give away tickets for all Trailblazer games. We're going to do that today on the show, so you have to listen to us for your chance to win. I think today we're going to give away tickets to go see Memphis, Ja Morant, and the Grizzlies on November 10th. So listen to us for your chance to win. And we'll do that today with Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday. And we have a lot of different things we want to get to. Also, I forgot to mention this, but today marks the first day. Our brand new Trailblazers insider, Sean Hyken, is going to join us at 4:20. And he's going to join us every Tuesday throughout the entire season at 4:20 on the show.
I did not know this. She did not tell me that. We had a meeting and everything. It was a fun meeting today, too. A lot of talk, not about the show, but about other fun things.
Yes.
But you skipped that on me.
I did, yes. So it's happening. I had a meeting. You weren't part of that meeting, but it is happening. So you can hear Sean on our show at 4:20 every Tuesdays to get the latest on the Trailblazers. And then every Thursday morning at 8:20 on Rip City Mornings with Justin Myers.
Oh, he has to go on with Justin?
Hey, man, I don't know what is worse. Do whatever he does and go work out, and the rest of his day is set.
Can you imagine? I mean, I remember getting up and trying to time it out so I didn't have to get up too early, and then having a silent alarm that I was on a watch I had so that I wouldn't wake anyone else up. It vibrated. That woke me up in the morning. Always pitch dark when you headed off to work. God, I hated that.
My alarm was set to the max. It was Motley Crue, Kickstart My Heart. I needed something abrupt to wake me up, and I would set like 4 or 5 alarms. I would have the first alarm, the second alarm, the third alarm, the fourth alarm, and the oh bleep alarm. You better get your ass out of bed and get to work right now. And the boss would always give you one freebie a year where you would oversleep and not know what's going on because getting up that early is not normal. But one time was it, and you knew that you had to show up at work on time. It's crazy. All right, enough of that. Let's talk about the World Series. I got to give you props. I asked you yesterday on the show who you thought would win. You picked the Dodgers. I mean, you liked the way Buehler had been pitching, and you thought he would perform, and he certainly did.
Yeah.
We'll get to more on the Dodgers starting pitching in just a moment. But with that lead, the Dodgers are now in full command of the series, 3-0. I thought for sure the Yankees would bounce back and get a win last night because I thought they would get 2 out of 3 at Yankee Stadium, and the Dodgers would go back home and finish it out. But it looks like the series may end tonight. But Freddie Freeman's about to win a World Series MVP award, and rightfully so. I mean, the guy right now is completely locked in at the plate, confident, and it couldn't happen to a better guy. And once again, the Atlanta Braves are complete fools for allowing that stud to walk out of their clubhouse. Yeah. Idiotic. He's great, and he was awesome again last night.
Yeah, not only his value on the field, but his value in the clubhouse. He's a great leader for your team. He plays the game the right way and encourages other people to do it. And, by the way, Chad, 2-run homer in the first inning last night. My experience with playoff baseball, the team that scores first, especially if they already own the series lead, that puts an inordinate amount of pressure on the trailing team. When you get behind right out of the chute in that game that you have to win, and make no mistake, the Yankees had to win last night. When you don't even come to the plate and you're down 2-0, that's brutal pressure to put on your offense.
It truly is. Right now, in case you were wondering, we all know it's over, right? In the best of 7 postseason series, teams taking a 3-0 lead have gone on to win the series 39 of 40 times, including 31 sweeps. Just 2 teams down 3-0 have even forced a Game 7 in the playoffs, the 2020 Astros, who lost to the Rays in the ALCS, and the 2004 Red Sox, who, of course, were the only team to come back and do it when they beat the Yankees. But more on Freddie Freeman. Take a listen to Kevin Millar, who was on Fox Sports Radio today, talking about Freddie Freeman and what makes him such a great hitter. He actually thinks he's the best hitter in the game, but it's about the approach. Take a listen to Millar.
I stopped throwing cutters inside. I stopped throwing fastballs inside. I stopped playing the whole trick him inside. I would make him try to beat me away. I know there's a short porch in right field in Yankee Stadium. Freddie Freeman is so quick inside. And you know what? And I've always said this. I've said this all year. I think he's the best hitter in baseball. His approach is left center, not trying to hit a home run. Give me 60 doubles and 25 homers. And that's where he goes, right? Short and quick to the baseball, and he just snaps it. But he finishes high. He's got great drills. His approach I love. I have a high school kid that looks like him. Like his torso goes up to his basically pecs. I mean, his legs go up to his pecs. Their torso is about that big. And it's funny because he sits gap to gap. And if you notice, most hitters don't do that. They're looking for 25 to 35 great swings a year, hitting 212, strike out 180, not Freddie Freeman. So I appreciate his game plan, even during the shift. Now we've stopped the shift. He's still a 300 hitter.
What do you think about Millar's assessment on Freddie's game at the plate?
He's spot on. There's no question. And Freddie's been very public. He doesn't make any secret about what he does at the plate. He hits left center to right center, what he calls the biggest area of the field. He's got a lot of room to deal with. He's not trying to pull everything. He will hit home runs, actually, to left field and has. He will go to the opposite field if you pitch him that way. He's a tough guy to pitch to. And you get in the situations, you're more nervous as a pitcher than he is as a hitter. He's very relaxed at home plate.
All right, I got a number of things I want to hit with you on the series before we're done with this first segment, Godfather. First off, the Dodgers starting pitching. You know, we thought going into the playoffs it would be a weakness. I'm just surprised they've gotten such great production from Buehler and from Yamamoto, especially in this series. What are they doing there? How have they been able to make that happen for those two guys who have been paramount in their success?
Well, the one thing, Chad, both of those guys you mentioned are really, really good pitchers. The reason they haven't pitched well is that they've been hurt. And both of them spent a lot of time. I mean, Buehler especially. He's coming back from his second Tommy John and hasn't pitched in 2 years. But he got some time in the minor leagues. He got himself going. And I'm guessing both those guys have spent a lot of time with their bullpen sessions in between starts with the pitching coach in the bullpen because their control, which is the hardest thing to master after a Tommy John surgery, their control has been terrific for both those guys. And that's really what's put them ahead of hitters and in charge of almost every at-bat.
What are you seeing with the Dodgers defense?
It's the best in the postseason of any of the teams. And it's a Dodger trade, Chad. I can go all the way back. When I was going to spring training in the early 80s in Florida, I went to Dodger Town, Vero Beach, where they used to be before they went to Arizona, watching them spend time on defensive drills that high school teams do, college teams do. They're doing those drills in spring training to make sure they know what they're doing defensively in every situation. It's continued on all this time. They don't have great defenders at certain spots, but they play great defense. That's just the way they play.
The other thing that's jumped out at me is if you were to take away the top of the guys in each team's order, how about the Dodgers? Sometimes this just happens this way, but the Dodgers are getting production from the guys at the bottom of their lineup, including Edman, who was the MVP of the NLCS.
Yeah.
I don't know how you time that up, but that's been the big difference in the series. And even for the Dodgers throughout the playoffs, the other guys stepping up to get timely hits.
Well, they get gamers. You know, they go after baseball players. They don't necessarily look for certain traits other than that. Tommy Edman is a baseball player, has been for years, can play multiple positions. They love those guys, by the way, guys who can play all over the diamond. Yeah. And Kike is another guy. When the chips are down, you can count on him. He's there for you. Gets clutch hits. He makes the plays, whatever position you put him, just like Betts does. Betts plays all over the field. And they shuffle those guys around as needed, but it really helps when you have guys like that who just show up and know how to play. Pressure doesn't get to them.
All right. The other point that Millar made, a lot of talk around Aaron Judge, who's struggling mightily right now. It's painful to watch because I love Judge, and, part of the reason why you watch the series is to see a guy like Judge go off. But Millar's like, hey, sometimes you can do all the right things, and you just go cold at the wrong time.
Yeah.
And he said now the Dodgers know they've got him out of sync, so they're hitting him hard inside with the first pitch, and they come soft outside, and he just can't figure it out.
Yeah, I think the change of speeds during his at-bat has really hurt him. He gets set up for a fastball. They throw the breaking ball outside. He's off. Even the ball he hit pretty well yesterday, he hit off the end of the bat, which means he was out in front too much. His timing wasn't good, and they're doing a great job of that. It'll be interesting today, though, Chad, because the Dodgers are going with a bullpen game again. Last time they did that, they pitched a shutout. But the Yankees have seen their bullpen in these two games. They've had a better look at all those bullpen guys. It'll be interesting to see how it turns out.
Who do you like tonight?
Well, you got to like the Dodgers, but I wouldn't bet the game because I think this bullpen game gives the Yankees a legit chance.
All right, we'll keep things rolling. When we come back, we're going to focus in on Donovan Kling, and some of the defensive numbers on him early in the season are really good. Also, some potential solutions to find ways to get him more minutes on the floor when he's ready for that. And then just some observations on early season NBA. It's been kind of rough, to say the least.
Yeah.
Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday coming up on the show. Listen to us for your chance to win. We'll do that at 5 o'clock. Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio, in studio at 5. And our Trailblazers insider, Sean Highkin, at 4:20 here on the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. All right, good news, Godfather. Brian Noah's informed me they've extended their stay in Portland another week as he continues to try and unload the furniture out of his storage unit. So we get him this week and next week.
He's having a tough time selling that furniture.
Well, it's good news because that means that we'll do dinner next week, which means you'll be able to participate because you won't have the Hall of Fame nonsense going on or whatever you got to do tonight.
Nonsense.
Well, you were bashing the Hall of Fame yesterday. Well, we're not technically as writers in the Hall of Fame, but
No,
we're at the Hall of Fame.
We're talking about that's the Naismith Hall of Fame. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I'm not bashing the Oregon.
Oh, so you put the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame at a higher standard than Naismith? Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, we put the writers in. They're in the Hall of Fame.
All right, Donovan Clingan, he's been impressive. It's early, right? They've played a few games.
4 games, yeah.
Yeah, so small sample size, but I think both of us and most of the people I've talked to impressed with what they see from the rookie. I can just tell you what I see through my eyes. I've watched a lot of rookie centers in the NBA over the years. A lot of them take a long time to adjust to the game on a variety of different levels.
Yeah.
He's not moving around like a rookie out there, playing with a little more confidence. My guess would be that's a product of coming out of UConn, being coached by Mr. Hurley. But he looks good. What are your thoughts on what you see so far right now? And some of the numbers back up, my statements that he's playing good basketball.
Yeah, Chad, I really I like how comfortable he looks, and I like his attitude. He's not going to be bullied by anybody. And he shows that. He's aggressive in the way he plays. He's not afraid. He seems to have a pretty good feel, too, for which shots he ought to go after and which ones he can't get to.
Yeah.
That's a big deal because most of these kids come in, they want to block every shot. They're going after shots they can't possibly hope to block. He doesn't get in the air too often. He got caught once last night. Somebody got him off his feet and drew a couple free throws. But by and large, he makes intelligent decisions. And if you look at his I looked at his shot blocks per 36 minutes.
Yeah.
It's about 6 per game, which is, going to lead the league by a sizable number if he played 36 minutes, which he's not ready to do yet. But I also notice he's already deterring people from taking shots in his vicinity. He turned back 2 or 3 players last night in the paint who saw him there and just took a detour.
Yeah, right now, his per 36 numbers, this is pretty impressive here. 11 points, 5.5 blocks, and pulling down 16 rebounds a game.
Yeah.
That's pretty productive right there in his per 36. Now, we were talking about getting him more playing time. I've been told that part of the reason why he's being limited right now to around, 10 to 15 minutes is because of conditioning. Like, they've got to work him up into being NBA conditioned. I don't think that's going to take too long. Not that he's out of shape. It's just that the game's different, and you're going to be playing a lot more games, and they probably would want to try and prevent him hitting some type of wall that you see a lot of the youngsters hit. But those are productive numbers. You and I were talking about finding ways to get him more time. Well, what if they just do what they said they were going to do during media day? And DeAndre Ayton was clamoring. When we talked to him, he was all about, hey, I'm all for it. Let's put another big on the floor. He's a big fan of Clingan. I want to play the 4.
Yeah.
So we can both be on the floor together. Ayton wants to do it. Why not?
That's just what I was going to say. Why not?
Even Phillips said he wants to do it.
Yeah. Why not? What do you got to lose? I mean, really.
No, you don't. So I understand you can't have 2, 7-footers out there the entire time, but can't you just find particular matchups with teams that you're playing who are maybe a little bit bigger and don't run as much where you can use Ayton and Clingan together?
Yeah.
And that would free up Ayton to do what he does because he's more of a mid-range guy. And then Clingan can continue to roam and defend and rebound.
I would be tempted to say play Ayton at the high post and then play Clingan down low, and you might have something going there. You might force other teams to try to bring big players onto the floor to guard them who aren't accustomed to getting a lot of playing time, but other teams don't have a lot of playable bigs.
Yeah. And both players, Ayton is a decent passer. Clingan, a lot of people think that's underrated part of his game. You have 2 bigs on the floor that can facilitate.
Mm-hmm.
I like that idea because as Clingan continues to play, I'm just a big believer that when guys produce, practice, and then in games, you put pressure on the coaching staff to find ways to get you on the floor more.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a way to do it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Chad. And all I'm saying is if his conditioning, and we don't have any idea about his conditioning because we're not allowed in practice. If his conditioning improves, his minutes should improve. That's my point.
Well,
get him as many as he can handle.
Yeah, and they will. I think that we're going to see those minutes increase because he's being so productive. And as you pointed out, they're going to be a better team when he's on the floor because he's making good decisions. The hardest part for him will just be to continue to adjust night to night to the officials. Like last night's game, the second quarter took like 5 hours because they were blowing a whistle on every flipping play. And as a big, you don't. It's going to take him time to earn you got to go through the whole process. Got to earn the respect of the officials. Got to gain a better understanding how to use your body, how to have your arms, your position, all that stuff, and get used to the different plays you're seeing every night. My guess would be in the NBA, when you jump up from college, all of a sudden he's facing 4s and 5s that just move in a different fashion than the guys he saw in college.
Oh, yeah.
They're just better players, better athletes. They move better. So that's going to take him time. But once he gets a chance to learn some of the different matchups and adjust to the officiating, Klingon's going to be fine. It looks like they probably found themselves a pretty darn good basketball player.
Hey, I've talked to a couple of people who said this is a year where he could, even getting picked where he was, he could be in the running for Rookie of the Year. Because there's just,
there's no Wimby out there.
Yeah, there's no generational talent out there among the rookies this year. It's wide open.
All right, so the Trailblazers continue on. They'll be down at the Intuit Dome tomorrow night. That's going to be a reason to tune in, aside from the game, just to see what it looks like in the Intuit Dome. That place is awesome.
Yeah, I heard them talking about it on the postgame, and they were talking about Brooke will probably have a little tour of the building, which they should do. They should show people what that building looks like. There's an awful lot of curiosity about it.
I've done tours at football stadiums and baseball parks, which I'm a big fan of, except for the one with the Yankees because they sucked and they were arrogant with their process. Don't do it if you go to Yankee Stadium. But I would do a tour. I'm sure they're doing them. I would do a tour of the Intuit Dome because of the technology and everything that got going on. Like, that would be a very interesting 45 minutes or an hour, whatever they do to get you around that building to take a look at all the different things they've got set up. I love it.
Yeah.
And we'll have a chance to see it. The other thing that's jumped out at me, maybe it's just my eyes, but this early season NBA action has been kind of rough to watch. And I'm just wondering if that's a product of the shortened preseason where the regulars aren't getting a ton of time. And so, like we see a lot of times in football, it takes a couple of games for them to kind of get their mojo and get things going where it's a smoother operation.
I think it's absolutely true, Chad. And what I've noticed is the NBA is getting like the NFL, where the veteran players are too good to play in the exhibition games. They're just not going to play preseason. I don't need it. And consequently, they miss out on opportunities to hone their ability to play with their teammates. The team game gets really lost in the shuffle when you do that. And you're seeing teams that don't look very cohesive right now. I don't think I've seen Sacramento look that disjointed before. They usually play really well together.
Yeah.
And they usually run more. Now, because there are changes in personnel, they won't run as much this year. But still, they're not as well organized as usual. So I wonder about some of these teams and how much veteran players have played. And I think they're cheating themselves a little bit.
Now, Sacramento is a team I like to watch. I like their coach. Mike Brown is a cool dude.
Good job. Yeah.
And they've got players on that team that I enjoy. Sabonis is one of my favorite players in the league to watch. I just appreciate his game. And then I really like watching De'Aaron Fox because he's so quick with the basketball, and I like his demeanor. And then I know a lot of people, the analytics guys, there's certain players in the league they don't care so much about. I love DeMar DeRozan. I watched him last night, and I'm just like, man, he's just a pro. He's very good at getting to his spots and being very productive. And he knows how to draw fouls. I just think he's a good basketball player who's been remarkably durable and has been productive throughout his entire career.
Makes the right play all the time, Chad. It's not like he's a gunner. He scores his points, but if you're open, he'll get you the ball. That's the kind of player he is. He plays the game the right way. And I think for years, he's been a favorite player of a lot of people.
All right, Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. Brian Noah in studio at 5. We're going to talk with Sean Highkin at 4:20, and it's Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday, which means we have a pair of tickets to give away, Blazers and Grizz, and we'll do that at 5. You have to listen to us for a chance to win, courtesy of your Portland Trailblazers. I want to talk football for just a moment. As you know, and I think you're on board with it too, but I'm a big fan of the college football playoff expansion to 12, and I'm excited about what the future is going to bring because I imagine in the near future we'll get 16 teams.
Oh, yeah.
And that will transform into 24 teams. Like, it's going to be a smorgasbord come December with all the college football games we're going to get. and I'm excited about the 12-team playoff this year for the very first time. But here's one of the reasons why I love it and why I think it's going to be really good for the sport. I went through and made a list of teams who are alive for a playoff berth today. And I left a couple of teams out who are alive but really on the fringe. But these teams have legitimate chances to make the playoff, which is amazing. And here's the list. Out of the Big Ten, you've got Oregon, Indiana, Ohio State, and Penn State. That's 4 teams. Out of the ACC, Clemson, Miami, Pittsburgh, and SMU. Out of the Big 12, BYU, Iowa State, Kansas State, and Colorado. Notre Dame, Boise State. Out of the SEC, Texas A&M, Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, LSU, and Alabama. I counted up 20 teams in that list that I just made right there. 20. Wow. 20 teams who today, as we get ready to enter into November, and it will be November 2nd on Saturday when a lot of these teams take place, or these teams are in play. We're this late in the season, and you've got multiple teams with multiple fan bases across the country who are still alive to get into the playoff and be a part of the big dance. And I counted up the games this weekend. 13 games being played this Saturday, and they all have playoff implications. What more could you want? Because before you get into November, and all of a sudden it's like 1 or 2 teams that have an outside shot, and then you know which 4 really are in there. And so it limits the amount of fan bases and teams that have real involvement. And so that's why I'm excited about this, Godfather, because you have more games that matter, and you've got a bunch of teams who have a potential legitimate shot to get into the playoff. To me, that's really cool.
Well, and also teams that never, ever would have had even a sniff of that kind of
100%.
Opportunity. They would never. Boise State was never going to get the chance to play for a national championship.
No.
Now, are they going to win one this year? No, they're not. But they're in the game. You know, they have a chance to be involved in it. I think that's great.
Yes, and if Boise State were to get into the playoff and upset a team in the opening round, it would make for great television.
Yeah.
And so I just love this because even in each conference, as we were talking about yesterday, everyone looks at the Big Ten. It's like it's Ohio State and Oregon. Well, that's true, but Indiana is undefeated.
Yeah.
And, oh, by the way, Penn State's undefeated.
Yeah.
So that's 4 teams. You could have a 3-way tie with 3 teams in the Big Ten undefeated at the end of the year, and they got to go through some weird scenario to try and figure out who plays in the Big Ten title game.
Yeah.
To me, that's excitement. We all talk about Miami in the ACC, but Clemson's got 1 loss that was out of conference. They're likely going to meet Miami in the ACC title game, but Pittsburgh's undefeated, and they're playing great football. So you've got 3 teams out of that conference. And in the Big 12, BYU's undefeated, Iowa State's undefeated, Kansas State's one of the better teams in the country, and Colorado with 2 losses, still alive and has a chance to get to the Big 12 title game, as does ASU, who I left off because I think their pathway is a little more difficult. But that's multiple teams from 2 different conferences right there. And the SEC, because now you've got more at-large bids. A&M, fully alive. Georgia, fully alive. Texas, Tennessee, LSU, and Alabama are going to play. And the loser of that game is going to be out, but the winner can move on and still have a good shot, a legitimate shot at an at-large bid. So great fan bases across the country, but multiple teams from multiple conferences who are well alive and playing meaningful football games as we enter into November. And
For sure.
That's what we want. We want more teams to have a chance, more fan bases to have interest, but most importantly, meaningful football games to be played in the month of November as we near the end of conference play. So I think this is working out even better than what we thought it was going to work out like. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, you think something's going to be good, but then you see it,
once it plays
come to fruition. It's like, oh, this is even better than I thought.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't considering, when I was thinking of the playoff, I wasn't thinking of teams like BYU or Boise State or Army and Navy. It never crossed my mind, but they have legitimate shots to maybe get in. And who wouldn't want to see an Army or Navy get in just because it'd be cool? Now, the only part that's weird to me about the playoff, and I don't know how they'll sort this out over time, and maybe it's better to have it the way it is, but you're not getting the 12 best teams to compete in the playoff. You're getting some of the best teams in the country with other teams who aren't among the 12 best, but they're getting a shot because they play in a different conference. So that part's weird to me.
But that's part of the charm of it in a way.
Yeah.
It's the same in basketball.
Yeah,
really
there are teams that get in that aren't one of the best teams in the country.
Every year. Yeah.
So maybe we shouldn't overthink this. Just follow the similar model to the success of March Madness, and you give us the shot at a Cinderella story. Because we all know how this will go. If Army or Navy or Boise or whoever any of these smaller schools that get into the playoff, if they're on the verge of pulling an upset in the first round, we're all going to be watching and pulling for the underdog in that situation. Because what wouldn't be great about watching Boise or Army or Navy or pick your school beating an SEC team?
Agreed.
And watching that SEC fan base melt down as they're losing to one of these supposed scrubs. It'd be great. And it will happen. We never thought a 6 team would beat a 1 until it happened, and now you're like, oh, it's possible. We're going to get some type of crazy upset in the first round of the playoff.
Yeah.
Now, as you get deeper in the playoff, it's going to be more difficult to get over on some of the top competition. But heck, if you're Boise or if you're freaking Army and you win a playoff game, that's like winning a national championship.
Absolutely. And I think as these playoffs move round through round through round, boy, injuries are going to take their toll, and it's going to be a battle of attrition. And you might see teams get in and beat better teams simply because they held up better over the course of this long march to the end.
Oh, speaking of college football, I did confirm with my dad. By the way, Sam Levitt from Westland, he's been cleared to play. Kenny Dillingham said there's a 70% chance he's going to go, which means he's going to play against Oklahoma State this weekend. I asked my dad, I said, okay, where are you at this weekend? He said, I'm 100% Scattaboo. So he's going to be pulling for the Devils over the Cowboys because he's mad at them right now, and he loves Scattaboo. So there you go.
That's how people are. When your team gets so bad, you root for them to lose because then maybe changes will be made, right?
Yes.
Coaches get fired, whatever.
Yeah, whatever it takes to make positive change happen. Also, I heard Feinbaum today. He thinks that in the Heisman race, that Travis Hunter, if he is healthy enough to play and contribute, and the fact that Colorado's playing in meaningful football games, he thinks it's his Heisman to lose over Dylan Gabriel or Genty. That's what Feinbaum thinks. I still think Genty's numbers are going to be so gaudy at the end of the year that he'll win the award, but this is where it gets weird. I mean, you voted for Heisman for years.
Yeah.
I think Hunter's the best player in college football, but I think Genty's going to have the best resume in college football. He's going to put up the best numbers, just like last year. Jaden Daniels won the award because his numbers were outrageous. I think that's how he got the majority of vote. So how do you think people will size that up if Hunter's able to play the rest of the year without getting dinged, and then Genty's got those gaudy numbers because Hunter's doing it in a unique way by playing both ways.
Yeah. I think, look, I can't ever diminish what Hunter is doing. Nobody's doing that now. But at the same time, Genty is going to have an historic season.
Yeah, Barry Sanders type season.
Yeah, and I think when you look back, that game he played against the Ducks is going to be meaningful for him too. I mean, people are going to look at it and say, yeah, but you were playing a lousy bunch of teams and they couldn't stop. No, he did some big stuff against the Ducks, the number 1 ranked team in the country. They couldn't get to him. I mean, he just romped all over them. And I think that's big for him in a Heisman race.
Yeah, it was big for Barry Sanders, too, because Oklahoma State was playing in the Big 8 at the time. So he was putting up massive numbers against Kansas and some of the scrubs in the conference, Colorado or whatever.
There were some in those days, yeah.
Yeah, like bad teams. Missouri.
Yeah.
Not the teams that you know them to be now. They stunk. But when he played Nebraska and he played Oklahoma, he did the same thing. Mm-hmm. So that was really what propelled him when they saw him do it against legitimate teams. They're like, oh, this guy's just great. And I feel the same way about Genty. When you do it against everyone you play, including Oregon, it just means you're great. It just means that you're going to dominate whatever competition you face.
Yeah.
And it's not like these teams are worried about the Boise State passing attack. They go into the game saying, we got to shut him down,
That's
and
right.
They don't shut him down. That's when you know someone's really good, when the whole game plan is like, shut down Genty. And then you look back at the game, you're like, how did he get 250 yards on us and 4 touchdowns? We tried.
Yeah.
We schemed everything against the guy, and he still got off. That's, to me, what makes him great. Even if you're playing, lesser competition than Oregon. If you're facing a box that's stacked, you would think that they would be able to slow you down.
Yeah.
But yet he's able to get it done. Oh, it's good. He's fun to watch. And then
Very.
plus he had that explosive run. He had the explosion play against Oregon, like the 80-yard touchdown. It's like, whew. And he's strong. He's very he's stacked, but when he gets in the open field, it's bye-bye.
Yep.
It's kind of like Derrick Henry, who's just a freight train. But when he gets in the open field, it's like, oh, he's faster than everyone, too. That's not fair.
Yeah, kind of Bo Jackson kind of stuff.
Okay, we're going to come back. There's a great contest that I should probably enter, and I think maybe
Yes,
the Godfather should
you
go too. But also, you got to read the quote from before the end of the show. You got to read the quote from Missoula. head coach
Oh,
of the
yeah.
Celtics.
I'll see if I can cue that up.
I used to think he was a dum-dum. Now I know he's won a championship, and he's
Now
one of my
he's
favorite
your
guys in the league.
favorites. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to
He's-
vote for him for Coach of the Year.
He's totally turned you around. It's amazing.
I love Missoula. This guy is like, he's my type of guy. The more he talks, the more I'm like, gosh, I love this guy. You're not going to believe it either. He might get fined for the comments, but they're badass. You think the NBA might be like, hey, dude, what are you doing? Commissioner Silver's not going to be happy with those comments, is he?
No.
But they're great.
Good stuff.
All right, Rip City Drive, Dwight and Chad. Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday, your chance to win at 5. All right, just got an email that's going to upset my daughter.
Why?
She demanded that I request and ask if there were any Wicked tickets available, but it appears that we're not part of the promotions on that, which is odd because iHeart promotes everything, but not that. Sorry, honey.
Oh.
She doesn't come to me very often for certain things either.
I'm surprised she wanted to go. The movie's coming out real soon.
Yeah, I don't know anything about anything. I don't know anything about Wicked. I just know my daughter wanted to go, and so I put in the request.
I've seen it. It's another take on The Wizard of Oz, focused a little more on the Wicked Witch.
Oh, well, right away, I don't like it because when you have a classic like The Wizard of Oz, how can you do anything that would be better than that?
Well, you have to make it into a musical.
Okay. I did go see, I've seen some plays on Broadway. Beauty and the Beast, Grease. I wanted to see Lion King when I went back to New York, but they weren't open on the day I had available, so that was that. Oh, Scotty Bethune has just reached out. Apparently, he's a Miami Hurricane fan. Raven fan and Hurricane fan, and the Ravens play the Broncos this weekend, so I'm going to be hearing a lot more from Bethune over the next few days. You're not a Canes fan? Screw Miami. Can't stand Miami.
I'm a little surprised that anybody from around here would be a Miami fan.
I know, but we have a lot of abused individuals around here like Bethune. And what can I say?
I hadn't thought of that as an excuse.
Well, I'm here to give you plenty of excuses and answers. Just come to me, Godfather. I got you. All right. We'll get to the Joe Walsh situation in just a moment because it's pretty cool. But read the quote from Joe Mazzulla, who's now my favorite coach in the NBA. And he's going to quickly surpass Phil Jackson, my favorite of all time, if he keeps this up.
Okay.
Settle down, Mazzulla. He's on fire.
I'm gonna read as much of it as I can. The biggest thing we rob people of from an entertainment standpoint is you can't fight anymore. I wish you could bring back fighting. You want to talk about robbing the league of entertainment? What's more entertaining than a little scuffle? How come in baseball they're allowed to clear the benches? How come in hockey they're allowed? I don't understand. I just don't get why some sports are allowed to clear. I'm getting an ad right in the middle of this. They're allowed to clear the benches. They have bats and weapons. We don't. We just have a ball. The other sport has and he's talking about hockey. The other sport has one of the hardest surfaces and a puck and a stick, and we're not allowed to throw down a little bit. He also, by the way, wants a power play for like technical fouls, take fouls. Just allow a team to play with a man advantage for 5 seconds or 3 dribbles.
Yeah! I fully endorse that statement from Mr. Mazzulla. I grew up with that NBA, so that's what I'm used to. Physical play, and when things went sideways, guys would try to kick each other's ass, and I enjoyed it. The reason why I really liked having enforcers in the NBA primarily was that it kept other clowns in line.
Yeah.
Meaning, if a guy hits a 3 and decides to shimmy and act like a fool when he's running up the court, someone would come over and send a message that, hey, we don't act like that in the league. You don't celebrate like a buffoon in our faces, or you're going to suffer the brunt of my punishment. I like that. I have no problems with guys wanting to take a swing at one another. I saw Robert Parrish punch out Bill Laimbeer, legitimately knock him out on the floor of the parquet at Boston Garden in a playoff game. And the refs didn't boot him out because they're like, well, Bill had it coming because he was dirty in the previous game back in Detroit.
Yeah.
Now, that's the NBA I grew up with. I understand what David Stern was trying to do. He wanted to clean up the so-called image of his league, which had some issues in the early days back in the 80s. But there is an element to entertainment that comes with guys getting after one another.
Let's take it a step further. How would you feel in basketball if the referee stood back and let them go? Just like in hockey, they keep other players away. No third man in. You can't do the third man in.
Yeah.
But one-on-one, back off, let them go. If it gets to be bad, we'll jump in. If somebody's really getting punished, we'll step in and stop it.
I would definitely watch that.
Yeah,
the problem is with basketball compared to like hockey and football is that you don't have protective equipment. So a punch landed on someone's grill. Just ask Rudy Tomjanovich, right?
Yes.
You don't want the Rudy T situation out there. But at the same time, when you have 250, 280-pound chiseled human beings ramming into one another, like occasionally tempers are going to flare.
Yeah.
I just hate it when the NBA overreacts like, oh, two guys are fighting, the violence. It's not that big a deal. It's just sports, man. Settle down.
Yeah, and I mean, as long as it's fair and there's no cheap shots, things like that.
Yeah.
Like the Kermit Washington Rudy T thing was a total cheap shot. Rudy didn't even see him coming. He just turned around, bam, he got hit. Never saw him coming. Rudy was a tough guy. If he'd have seen it coming, it wouldn't have happened.
Well, the league's never going to allow it, but I understand where Missoula's coming from. And that's a man after my own heart right there. So I appreciate that, Coach Missoula.
There is some talk that he was joking, that he was joshing, and maybe he was.
No, that's one of those things like ignorance is bliss. I don't care what the
You
tone
don't
was.
care.
I just want to believe that he wants to see some fighting in the NBA.
Yeah, I get it.
All right. Here is something that's very interesting you sent over to me. You can donate to Vets Aid and support veterans groups across the country that are serving the men and women who served our country.
It's a great cause.
And if you donate, and you're right, it's a very good organization, you can win a trip to the Eagles at Spear in Las Vegas and a cup of coffee with Joe Walsh. Round trip travel to Las Vegas, a 2-night stay, 2 tickets to the band's guest list for the Eagles at the Spear on March 7th, exclusive opportunity to enjoy a cup of coffee with Joe Walsh when you're in Vegas, and a Joe Walsh signed guitar. Like, that's got everything that I would want in one little situation.
You would order the biggest cup of coffee you could find.
Gosh.
Make that thing last for a long time.
Yeah, I've interviewed Joe once. He was awesome. He's a terrific guy. He's the main attraction for why people go to see the Eagles, because he still jams a guitar like a freak.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to enter that just to see if I win, because it'd be a great story on the radio if I got to go down and sit down with Joe Walsh.
Fantastic. Yeah, and you're the perfect guy to do it. I mean, if they could handpick a guy that would be perfect, it'd be you, because you'd ask him the most interesting, incisive questions of anybody he'd have coffee with.
Yeah,
he would enjoy it.
Yeah, the main thing I want to ask him about is, like, what was it like backstage when you were on the same ticket as who's the left-handed guitar player that sang Purple Haze? His name is slipped my
Jimi
mind.
Hendrix?
Yeah, Hendrix. So he goes backstage. He met Hendrix for the first time, and like he was talking about, like most guitarists, like they're like athletes, right? They talk shop.
Yeah, they do.
So
yeah.
they were showing each other their guitars, and he said that's when he realized, like, Hendrix was left-handed and his guitar was a right-handed guitar, and that's when it all occurred to him, like, that's how he makes a sound that no one else is making, because he's playing the guitar upside down. So no matter how many people tried to replicate what Hendrix was doing, they couldn't copy it because it was so unique with a left-handed person using a right-handed guitar. To me, that's cool because Joe Walsh is great, and yet he's there with Hendrix, like, admiring his game, and I think that's cool.
Yeah, and Hendrix was really good with other guitar players. I think Billy Gibbons talks about an all-nighter in England. They ran into him in London, and he spent all night with him talking about different things that he was playing. He said he taught him a lot, too.
Wow, that's awesome. All right, I'll enter to win that, and if I win it, I will share the full experience with everyone on the show.
I want the hidden recorder for that little talk during coffee.
And here's my question, though. You can donate anywhere from $10 up to $500. My question would be, are they going to select the winner from the larger donation file?
I was going to say, I would think it would help to be the $500 donor.
So if you donate $500, you have a better chance of being selected.
Well, it's only fair that it would increase your odds. That's only fair.
I agree.
So write them a big check.
All right, we'll come back. Almost belched on the radio. That would have been embarrassing.
Would have been fun.
Brian Noah in studio at 5. Trailblazer ticket Tuesday at 5. And when we come back, we got to talk about quarterback narratives in the NFL. You got the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. All right, what's going on, my friends? It's now 4 o'clock. Yeah, Trailblazers dropped their first road game last night in Sacramento. DeAndre Ayton has opened up the year with 4 consecutive double-doubles. The Blazers back at it tomorrow night. Their first trip down to Intuit Dome to meet the Clippers. Tip-off at 7:30. Chris Burkhardt will have game day at 5:30 on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio on the Diamond in New York City last night.
A 1-2 offering from Schmidt. Freddie swings and belts the ball right field, hooking toward the corner. Hello, short porch, and hello, Freddie Freeman.
Yeah, Freeman's on his way to a World Series MVP. The Dodgers double up the Yankees, get the win 4-2. They take a commanding 3-0 lead. Game 4 tonight. First pitch on Fox at 5:08. Kasparius and Gill will be your starting pitchers. Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio, going to join us in studio at 5. Sean Highkin at 4:20, and Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday at 5. All right, real quick, Godfather. What rock and roll musician would you like to sit down and have a cup of coffee with? If it's not Joe Walsh, if you could enter to win and sit down with a musician, who would you like to have a cup of coffee with?
I would say Dave Grohl.
Oh, apparently, according to Wings of Pegasus, he did a little research with his pitch detector. The superstar has been doing some miming at her concerts.
Oh, really?
Taylor Swift. So Dave Grohl was not lying.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, because he accused her of that, right? When they were in London, I think.
Yeah, I just work off the assumption now that all artists are doing that.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah, but Dave Grohl will be fascinating. Shacker, who would you like to sit down and have a cup of coffee with? Because you're a big music guy. You'll probably answer with someone I don't know.
Yeah.
But seriously, who would it be?
There's limited time left for us to hang out with Ozzy Osbourne, so it'd have to be him. Because, first off, I don't even have to speak English. I'll just go,
Yeah,
I'll just
I was
talk
gonna
like
say.
him and see if he understands me, because I won't be able to understand him.
Yeah, you will be able to understand.
But that's a good one. Ozzy would be
Yeah.
fascinating because he's a fascinating human being.
If you can understand, I mean, he's really tough to understand now. He's pretty far gone.
He's always been tough to
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
He's had a rough one.
Yeah.
But he released an album a couple years ago, and he sounded perfect. So then it made me wondering, is his voice being altered? Just so he can release albums? Because when he's singing, it sounds like a normal person.
Hey, Chad, will that hurt Taylor Swift's popularity if that word gets out? Or I don't even know if her fans would care. Will they care?
They'll just deny it's true.
Oh.
You could present them with the facts, and they'd be like,
And this is fact, right? He's got all the data that supports it.
yeah, it's the pitch detector.
Yeah.
It matches up perfectly. 3 different shows, three different venues with the ambient noise. It's not possible to replicate perfectly the exact match on the pitch detector unless you're using a track. Impossible. So, yeah, it's true. It's real, but
How does he know how frequently she's doing it? Or
well, he's just examining one song.
yeah.
If he were to dig into other songs, I'm sure he would find similar findings, right?
Sorry, Swifties.
I don't care if it's one song or all the songs. Why is it okay for one?
No, I'm just curious whether it's rampant or.
Oh, my guess is it happens all the time. I just work out the assumption now that I don't trust politicians, I don't trust the news media, and I don't trust musicians when they tell me that they're doing it for real. You know, that's why you got to be careful when you point the finger and criticize, because someone's going to find out that you're doing the same thing. Especially when you tour all the time, your voice is getting hammered on, right?
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
She gives long concerts and a lot of them.
But it does change the way I look at that. I mean, when you're, I don't want to get into it. I don't have the energy to get into a long tirade on this stuff.
Yeah. You just don't like it.
But with the amount of money that these fools are charging for people to come in to see their shows, if
Yeah.
you're going to do that type of nonsense, you need to have a disclaimer. Parts of the program were previously recorded. Just let people know. But don't go out there and just act like it's all real. No faking. All right, no faking. No one likes a faker.
Wow, that's big news. That's big news.
That Wings of Pegasus guy's pretty good because he just goes right to the technology. He's not there to. He's just there to say, well, here's what the data says.
Yeah, he's doing a public service.
Well, people don't like people that just give truth and data. It's like, well, screw you. It's got to be wrong.
Right.
Because some people don't want the truth on certain things. I certainly don't. I've been down that path. I don't want to know certain things anymore. I thought I wanted to know. I don't want to know. All right, let's talk some football here. I'm fascinated by quarterback narratives in football, and it deals with Russell Wilson, who played last night on Monday Night Football, but I just want to use a few examples. We'll start with Patrick Mahomes. I think this year he has more interceptions than touchdowns so far. So in terms of numbers and quarterbacking, he has not played his best football. But the Chiefs are undefeated, therefore Patrick Mahomes is great, and he's won Super Bowls, so he's great, so it doesn't matter whether he's got the numbers or not. That's kind of how people look at it, right? Regardless of his play, he's got the track record, and his team's undefeated, so regardless of his numbers, he's great.
They look at it like that unless they have him in fantasy football.
Yes. And fantasy people don't count because they're nerds,
right?
And they worry about all the things that no one else cares about.
Just bet the games, for crying out loud. What are you playing fantasy football? If you want to gamble,
yeah, don't be a sissy. Bet.
Yeah, go for it.
All right, Jared Goff. He is playing MVP level football right now for the Lions.
Mm-hmm.
He took the Rams to a Super Bowl. I was under the impression when he played for the Rams, he was a pretty good quarterback.
Yeah.
But Sean McVay decided that he was not his quarterback and he couldn't win a championship with him. And so he kicked him to the curb and went out and got Matthew Stafford.
Yes.
And I think that maneuver by McVay, because he's considered one of the darlings, the geniuses of football, like Sean Payton, that, well, if McVay doesn't want him, he must not be very good at being a quarterback. Then he gets shipped out to Detroit. But then after a couple of years, it's like, wait a second. He almost got him to a Super Bowl last year. And he's playing MVP level football this year, and he's doing it for what has long been a crap organization. Maybe Jared Goff's just really good at playing quarterback. He's a legitimate quarterback, but it's taken him time to shake the stigma that was on him coming out of L.A. because when you get dropped by Sean McVay, well, it must mean you're not very good at being a quarterback.
I'll tell you, he's my favorite quarterback this season, Chad. I mean, he leads them downfield on 2-minute drives. He hits big passes on third down. He does all the things you want a guy to do. It's going to be interesting to see if he can haul that team to the Super Bowl and win it.
Aaron Rodgers, he has one championship in his career. He's won one Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But forever, I've been told that he's one of the greatest of all time. Look at the way he throws the football. He's a field general. He's got a great arm. He can do everything. He's mobile. He's a terrific quarterback, one of the best right up there with Tom Brady. Now, I'm not saying he's not one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, but should you really be using Aaron Rodgers' name when you mention Tom Brady and some of the other greats who have won multiple championships and been just as good or better than him? I'm not so sure. But Aaron Rodgers gets a lot of love and acknowledgement from people, even though he's got just the one championship and a number of playoff failures in big moments.
Yes. Home losses in the playoffs.
Yeah. Russell Wilson. When he was in Seattle, he was beloved. Then things started to go a little bit sideways there between the defense and Russ and Pete Carroll. And everyone started to point the finger at Russ, that he was the problem, that he was one of Pete's guys. He was being protected, right?
Yeah.
Well, we only won the Super Bowl because of the great defense. Russ had nothing to do with that. And then when we went back to the Super Bowl, he got picked off in the end zone by the Patriots. Then he got traded. He was labeled by Seahawks fans as not the same guy, not a very good quarterback, and a product of a great defense that won a championship. The first year with Hackett was a total disaster, and Russ was a total disaster. And so he had been labeled. A lot of people don't like him because they think he's fake. They don't like his social media activity. They're jealous. They don't like his spiritual beliefs. And he's a man of faith. There's a lot of reasons why people don't like Russ. So that gets added to the fact that they think he's a crap quarterback and a product of a great defense in Seattle. His first year in Denver was terrible, but last year he played good football for Denver.
Darn right. People don't want to admit that, but
No.
he did.
No. And because Sean Payton didn't want him and yelled at him on the sideline in Detroit, then it must mean he's a crap quarterback. But yet here he is in Pittsburgh. He gets brought in, doesn't play right away because he's got the calf injury to start the year. Justin Fields leads him to a 4-2 record, and Mike Tomlin makes the change to quarterback because he thinks it's going to be better for the offense. Well, in 2 games against the Jets and last night against the Giants, Russell Wilson has played good football. And the Steelers' offense now looks a little more dynamic with a guy that can get the football downfield, and they dropped a couple of nice dimes last night. But people will be reluctant and hesitant to give him any credit because they have him labeled, and in their mind, they've already determined what he is, and I don't even know if there's anything Russ could do to change the narrative. Like, I feel like he could win the Super Bowl this year, and people would still try to poke holes in his game.
Yeah.
Isn't it weird how those narratives get created in sport where a guy is this or that, and no matter what he does, no one changes their viewpoint on that person?
Well, you get stereotyped, and then people buy into the stereotype, and they don't want to be wrong. So they stick to the stereotype even when the evidence is there that it's not true anymore. And it's okay to say, hey, at first, I thought the guy wasn't any good. But, after watching him now, it's the same way you did with Chet Holmgren. In the beginning, it's like, this guy can't play. But you sit here and you watch him play, and it's like, hey, I was wrong. This guy can play.
You're right. That's a perfect example. I thought Chet was another example of a white American-born big who was going to be slow-footed and be a bust.
Yeah.
Just a scrub of a basketball player. I thought it was insane to draft him top 3. I was like, what are you doing? You don't have a long enough evidence? We haven't had a good one since Larry Bird. And then he comes out and doesn't even play in his first year because he gets his ankles broke in some pickup game and he gets hurt. And that was confirmation to me. It's like he's a total joke. And then you watch him last year, and then you see the start of this year. It's like, no, he is like the modern NBA big who's just really good at multiple things. He's legit.
And you could have just held on to your previous belief.
No, he's great.
Yeah.
He's a great player.
Yeah. But some people want to hold on because they don't want to have to admit they were wrong in the first place.
Yeah. You're right. So I just think it's interesting. It's going to be fun to watch Russ throughout the rest of the year and to see how he plays and see how people will acknowledge or not acknowledge his play. Yeah. I just, like some people, like no matter what they do, they're going to poke holes. Like even with the deep balls against the Jets, it's like, well, those are just 50-50 balls he's throwing up down there. That's what they do.
Yeah, of course.
And look, I'm not saying Russ is the best quarterback in the NFL. What I'm saying is that he can still play football at a high level. And Mike Tomlin knew what he was doing when he made the change from Fields, who can't throw the football downfield, to a guy that can. And look at what it's done for the offense. All of a sudden, the running game is a lot more dominant because there's more balance in the offense.
He's helped the running game a lot.
Or Najee Harris runs with a certain level of violence that I appreciate in a running back.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like downhill.
Yeah,
like
and he's doing it now.
Yeah, I'll run over your ass because now the defense. Look at this is what Tomlin wants to run the football. Number one, so he's put Russ in the game, which has forced defenses to get some guys away from the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, he pulled players out of the box.
That's going to make Najee Harris's job easier, and Harris appreciates that. And then last night with some of the lanes he had to run through, when he gets downhill and he gets into the second level, good luck trying to tackle him. Because there are defensive backs making all sorts of business decisions when Najee Harris is coming at him. I don't want any part of that.
I'm on the record, Chad. I like Russ. I like him as a person, too. I've interviewed him. I've talked with him. I think he's a solid guy.
I do, too.
He's a little bit old-fashioned. He's different
awkward.
guy.
He's socially awkward on social media. I can understand why people might think he's fake, and I think it's part of that neutral thinking. It's such a bizarre way to live. He lives on a level that most of us don't with the neutral philosophy. So it comes off as fake because people don't understand what he's talking about. And most of us want our athletes. We don't want our athletes to be neutral when things are going sideways. I want to see a guy take his helmet and jam it into the ground like Lamar Jackson did at the end of that Cleveland game. I want to see an athlete, punch something because he's bitter, but that's not Russ. And I shouldn't expect him to be somebody he's not. So he's just different, but he can still play. But we get these labels on guys. It's like, oh, this guy can't do that. I don't know. He's playing well right now, so I'm going to pull for him. And I respect Mike Tomlin for being a man of conviction.
Yep.
It's like, no, I'm going to go with my experience and my gut on this more so than what the fans think.
I know what this team needs. You don't. I do. I'm going with what I think.
Yeah. All right, how are the Blazers doing with their pace, the desire to play fast, their early season defense? Sean Highkin, our Trailblazers insider, going to join us next. Will you turn your mic on? Hey, Dwight, will you turn your mic on? What was that? All right. Today starts a brand new day. This is pretty awesome. You read him at the rosegardenreport.com, and now he is a part of our family. He's our Trailblazers insider on social media at Hyken. Sean Hyken joins us for the first of many weekly conversations. Sean, what's up, buddy? Sean, what's going on?
Hi. Can you guys hear me? Got me?
Yeah, we got you loud and clear. We're having some issues there with something going on, but it's all good now, dude. And by the way, you sounded great on the pregame and the postgame last night with Chris Burkhardt.
Yeah, it was fun to do that. We're definitely going to be doing that more in the future.
No, it's great. I wanted to start with this before we get to the nuts and bolts of the team. Dwight and I are pretty excited about the commemorative glasses coming back, and they're going to do ticket packs where you can guarantee to get all the glasses. I think it's going to be Scoot, Shaden, and Donovan Clingan. I have all the Dairy King glasses from back in the day, but I wish that teams did more of this because it reminds me of being a kid where you get the collectibles. What do you think about this ploy by the Blazers?
Well, the last one that I remember is the 2015, the Wesley Matthews, Dame, LaMarcus, Robin Lopez, Batum team. They did the collectible wooden coasters, and I remember those were like a hot item for a while. So it is kind of cool that they're bringing that stuff back. The one thing I would say though is they should have done one for Toumani Camara also.
That's right. Toumani Camara, who is one of the big young pieces of the team. And, I mean, aren't you hearing from around the league that people feel that that was a steal, that the Blazers got him back in the deal?
Oh, yeah. I think out of the young guys on the team, as much as, Scoot and Shaden are kind of the hyped up, like, high draft picks, Toumani's been the best one of them so far as far as actual production and what they've done.
Sean, I wanted to ask you, just 4 games, small sample size, obviously. Hey, have you seen anything that so far that has surprised you from this team, either positively, negatively, whatever, but has something surprised you?
I think so. I'll give you one of each. So from a positive standpoint, I think he's only played limited minutes, but how comfortable Donovan Clingan has looked right away, I think has been. Like, I thought it would be a little bit more of a learning curve with him. That's a positive thing. The impact that he's had on the defensive end, I think, has been pretty encouraging. And then, I guess from a negative standpoint, you kind of thought that Anthony Simons would get off to a little bit of a better start shooting. He had that huge game in the second New Orleans game, but other than that, he's kind of still in a little bit of a slump. He seemed to break out of it in that game, and then he shot poorly again last night against Sacramento. So that's something I think they hope is going to change at some point.
Dwight and I were talking about that, not just with the Trailblazers, but in some of the early season games I've seen across the league, the play's been a little bit choppy. Do you think that's the shortened preseason? Is it the officiating? Like, what do you think is contributing to that league-wide?
Well, it could be that a lot of teams' veteran players are just not playing in the preseason. You saw Ant didn't only played in the final game of the preseason, and it seems like preseason is so weird because it doesn't matter, so like a lot of teams are like holding out their vets, or like when the vets are there, they're kind of like playing at half speed, just trying not to get hurt. But it is important to get some of those reps, playing with each other, even if it's games that don't count and don't mean anything. So, I think that could be something that's contributing to it. But yeah, across the board and across the league, there's been a lot of that kind of stuff where you're like a little bit surprised at how slow some of the starts have gotten off to, which is why you kind of shouldn't really overreact in either direction to any kind of small sample size stuff this early in the season.
Sean, Chauncey Billups wants this team to play fast. And what have you thought about the pace early in this season?
It's been pretty good so far. I mean, we'll see. There's been a lot of trying to get out on fast breaks. There's been, especially with some of those lineups that Denny Avdia is in, he's pushing the pace a whole lot. So far it's been going well. The thing is like it's easy to kind of do that early on in the season when it's everybody's still relatively fresh. It's a question of can they keep that up for an entire season.
We're talking with our Trailblazers insider Sean Hyken. What do you think about the defensive side of the ball so far?
It's been pretty good. I mean, last night Sacramento made a ton of threes. There's not really anything you can do about that. But, I thought they did a really good job defensively, particularly on Zion Williamson in the 2 New Orleans games. It's particularly Toumani Camara and Donovan Clingan did a really good job on him. Denny Avdia has been making an impact on that end. Jeremy Grant's defense has been pretty good. The pieces are there, to be a decent defensive team. It's just, they're gonna, from an offensive standpoint, there's gonna be more talent on the other team most of the time. So it's just like they're never gonna have an off night as far as like guys they're gonna have to guard. But so far it's been like they haven't looked like they're just completely inept on that end like they did for a lot of the last few seasons.
Social media has been kind of tough on Chauncey Billups right now, and that's been a trend. But with the fans that interact with you, I'm curious, who tends to get the brunt of their frustration?
Well, a lot of it is Chauncey. I think you're right about that, Dwight. I think there's also a little bit of a tendency for people to be kind of hard on Anthony Simons and Jeremy Grant and DeAndre Ayton just because I think a lot of people feel like those guys shouldn't even still be in Portland and like why haven't they traded them already, particularly DeAndre Ayton and Jeremy Grant. It's like there's a whole lot of just like, if one of those guys has a bad game, it's like, oh, they need to just trade those guys right now. So I think there's some of that going on, but I mean, really a lot of it is still Chauncey. I would agree with you.
How are they going to work out that rotation in the middle? Obviously, Klingon's playing well. You've got DeAndre Ayton. Robert Williams going to be available here in the near future. Do you think we might see them go to what they talked about before the season began with, Ayton at the 4 and Klingon at the 5 in certain situations if matchup allows so they can get some extra minutes to Klingon at some point when his conditioning's there?
I don't think there's any harm in trying it out in a season like this where you're not like expecting to make the playoffs, but I don't think that's really a long-term solution. I think the way they're going to probably end up working out the rotation, at least in the short term, is Jabari Walker, who's played very well, I think, in the last 3 games since he kind of got into the rotation, is probably going to be the odd man out once Robert Williams comes back. But the other thing to keep in mind with Robert Williams, and I'm not sure when he's going to play, the team is, at any minute is going to put out the injury report for tomorrow's game against the Clippers. And so we'll see if he's listed as questionable. I would guess he's probably still out for another game or 2 at least. But once he's back, he's not going to be playing on back-to-backs because they're going to be managing that hamstring injury, and just given his injury history, they're going to be very careful with him. And so there's going to still be plenty of games, even once he's healthy, where he's still not going to play. And so I think there's going to be room for plenty of minutes for Donovan Klingon once he's kind of shown that he's ready for them.
Sean, anything else from around the league jump out at you? It's still early, obviously, but what are you seeing out there that's kind of jumped in your face?
I'm very worried about. I mean, a couple of teams that I'm pretty worried about that kind of came into the season being thought of as contenders. One of them is Denver, and one of them is Milwaukee. I just don't think either of them have the depth to really be able to compete with kind of the top teams in their respective conferences. And then, of course, the Celtics are just kind of destroying everybody. It's going to be very hard for anybody to beat them.
I wanted to ask you about Milwaukee. People here, I think, are following Milwaukee because of Dame. What are you seeing there that disturbs you?
Well, part of it is they don't really have a lot of depth. I mean, Chris Middleton is still out with his ankle injuries, and that's the whole thing. And they don't really have a whole lot of depth. It's a pretty old team, but also just the Dame Giannis fit. Like, as great as both of those guys are individually, when that trade happened, we all thought that it was just going to be like one of the most deadly combinations in the league, and it really hasn't. The chemistry, whatever it is, it just hasn't really worked out the way that we thought it would. And I think people kind of thought that, last year was sort of a grace period because Dame gets traded there a week before the season, and he's going through all the personal stuff, and then they have the coaching change in the middle of the season. But it's kind of just been the same the rest of the way. And I mean, so far this season, and all those guys are just a year older now. And I don't know. I came into the season thinking, hey, Milwaukee, I know it's as crazy as it is to think of a team with Dame and Giannis as a dark horse. I came in thinking, yeah, they could surprise some people, but I don't know. I'm worried about them.
We're talking with Sean Highkin, our Trailblazers insider here on the Rip City Drive. One more question with Denver. They just gave the extension to Aaron Gordon, which makes a lot of sense because of the way he plays with Jokic. But they got 4 guys now who are making huge money. I just don't see how that's going to work very much longer with the new punitive penalties with the salary cap and the second apron.
Yeah, they're going to have to. I mean, probably. And Jamal Murray's the other guy that they just paid over the summer, and which, by the way, after the way he looked in the Olympics, I'm not sure that's one that I would have done.
I agree.
Either, but
yeah.
I would guess that probably Michael Porter Jr. is going to end up being the odd man out. But, given also the size of his contract and his injury history and some of his inconsistency over his career, I'm interested to see what his value is on the market when that whenever the time comes for that. But yeah, it's. I mean, I guess if you're Milwaukee or you're Denver, one of these two teams, when you're in a market like that and you're kind of under the CBA, both of those teams can say, "Look, we got one." Like they got. Like I don't know. Like I don't know if like another Warriors is going to happen where like a team wins 3 titles in 4 years or whatever. If you're one of these teams, especially in one of these smaller markets that has one of these generational superstars like a Giannis or a Jokic. You want to get one, and then whatever happens beyond that is sort of a bonus. I don't know if there's really like multiple year title windows anymore. And the Nuggets got one, so give them that.
Sean, I'm curious what you think of this. I was told by somebody in the league last week. They said, the players fought that hard cap for years and years. Now that the second apron is here, they got a hard cap whether they like it or not. And I started thinking about that. It looks like it might turn into that, because teams are so frightened about getting over it with all the restrictions it brings.
Yeah, and I mean there are a handful of teams. Steve Ballmer doesn't seem like he's that worried, but even they decided to let Paul George walk. But
yeah,
there's teams like the Celtics are paying a ton of people right now. The Suns are paying a ton of people right now. There's a couple of teams that are just like, who cares? We're going to go over it. But then those teams also have that. All the restrictions on what they can do with the roster if they go over the second apron. So it does seem like it kind of like I'm a little in retrospect, now that we've seen it in action for a year or a little bit more than a year, it's a little bit surprising that the players took that deal, considering some of the and I guess they kind of did the math that like there's so much more money coming into the league for all of us during with this new TV deal and with all these new revenue streams coming in that they were kind of okay with it. But I'm still a little surprised that they went for some of this stuff, and I think that there's been a lot of unintended consequences with it for sure.
All right, one more question for you, Sean. Your reaction to the NBA fining the Sixers $100,000 for making untruthful statements about the status of Joel Embiid?
I mean, you have to be especially now that the league is, and all these sports leagues are so in bed with the gambling companies. You kind of have to be as transparent as possible about this kind of stuff. And yeah, I always kind of, at the beginning of the season when they just announced that Joel wasn't going to play opening night or opening week, and he still hasn't played this season, and they. Even though they had said, he's healthy, he's looking good in shoot around, it's just part of the injury management thing. And I'm just like, if these guys are healthy or up to play and they're not playing on opening night because of a previously planned load management plan, like what are we really doing here? But if it turns out that he's actually injured, then that's something maybe they should have been upfront about, because then I think people would have been more inclined to be a little forgiving of it. But it's just the whole thing is just so like it's just taken a lot of the juice out of the start of the season to me. But it's just a really weird situation all around.
All right, you can follow him on social at Heiken. Make sure you check him out at rosegardenreport.com. He's our Trailblazers insider, Sean Heiken, here on the Rip City Drive. Sean, we appreciate the time. We look forward to talking with you every Tuesday, and I will catch up with you soon, my friend.
Yeah, good to talk to you guys.
There you go, Sean Heiken, Rose Garden Report. I mean, you've been hearing this for quite some time, Godfather. Embiid he's probably just not in shape right now, which is embarrassing.
Yeah, what I've heard is he has a habit of showing up at training camp not in shape. He doesn't do a lot in the summer. Now, he did play. He played in the Olympics this summer, which a lot of people believe the Sixers made a mistake allowing that, because his health is so tenuous anyway that to have him doing that is really dicey.
The one thing I cannot forgive professional athletes for is being out of shape.
Yeah, I know.
Your one job in life is to keep your body in peak condition. And you're being paid multi-millions to make sure that you show up ready to go on opening night. Well, what are we doing here?
And it's so different now, too, Chad. They make so much money, they don't have to work in the off season. They make enough money, they can hire their own trainers, their own chefs, all of that stuff that helps you stay in shape.
Yeah, even Channing Frye, who was not Embiid status, had his own personal chef to keep his body in tip-top shape. Even Steve Kerr almost benched him in the Olympics for being fat.
Yeah. Can you imagine what it's like to have your own personal chef?
I dream about it.
Oh, man.
That's the ultimate luxury, where you just wake up and you got some dude or some lady just making food for you.
Yeah. And it can be as healthy as you want, whatever you can.
Yeah, that's baller status.
Yeah, and it's like, I want a really cool dessert, but it's got to be low calorie. They'll find that for you and they'll make it.
That would be my number one. It's been my number one for a long time. If I had those type of dollars, personal chef's right at the top of the list.
Yeah.
And give me that. I don't have to worry about preparing or getting things ready or whatever. I got someone to do that. Oh yeah, sign me up right now.
No kidding.
And if you don't want to spend the money and you like being fat on a personal chef, give me the money. I'll get my own personal chef. I'll take care of it for you, brah.
Yeah. Well, I always think of Zion on that. Goodness sakes.
Some of the stories I've heard on Zion.
Yeah.
And he looks good right now, but I know that's not going to last. Yeah, it's not going to last. But he does look good right now. I want it to stay because he's a fun player to watch.
Very.
All right, going back to our conversation about the Joe Walsh contest, where you can donate and then be picked to win and have a cup of coffee with him and then go to an Eagles concert down at the Spear. Duke, the UPS guy, has chimed in.
Hi, this is Bill Shanley. If you're trying to get a hold of Duke, one of the best UPS guys around, he's not available right now, but he'll get back to you just as soon as he possibly can. Rip City.
That's a great voicemail. Thank you, Sean's. He has two people he would like to have a cup of coffee with. He says, I'd sit down with Eminem or maybe Cher, however you spell her name. He spelled it S-H-A-R-E.
Oh, that's good.
I would definitely do Cher.
Yeah.
I mean.
You would what? Definitely what? I know you would.
I would sit down and have a cup of coffee in hopes that I could do her. Yes.
Yeah.
No question.
No, you talk about Freudian slips. That was a classic right there.
I didn't even know what I was saying there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Because if I had coffee with Cher, I would be in the back of my mind. I'm like, come on, man. Just
ask.
Just give me a chance.
Yeah.
Just give me a chance, Cher. Because she would be able to look at me. I feel like there are some people that like they're like her eyes scare me. Like she could look through my eyes and see into my soul and know that I'm going to give him a chance because he would do whatever I ask. Whatever I needed, he would be there for me.
She's old enough to be your mother.
I don't care. I can't give a rat's ass about that. The older, the better. Whatever, man. That's called experience, Godfather.
Oh, okay.
I think her boyfriend right now is like my age or younger.
Probably. Well, she can get anybody she wants, right?
Yeah, including me.
Yeah. Well, that's not a tough catch.
Well, I'm going to do a quick, let's go to Rabbi Google. How old?
Cher, S-H-A-R-E.
Boyfriend. 37. He's younger than I am.
She's got a 37-year-old boyfriend?
Yeah. Isn't that awesome?
Wow.
Good for her.
Is he an actor or something like that? Is he a UPS driver?
Cher is 77, 40 years older.
Wow. What's the record? Wow.
That is epic, man. All right. His name is Alexander. He goes by A.E. Alexander A.E. Edwards.
Oh.
He's a music executive.
Of course.
Let's see here. Cher spoke about her boyfriend again in December of 22 while appearing on she was on the Kelly Clarkson show. Quote, on paper, it looks kind of ridiculous, but in real life, we get along great. He's fabulous, and I don't give men qualities they don't deserve. I believe that.
That was in 2022, though. She's probably moved on from that.
All I'm saying is that I don't even know who this AE guy is, but if he were to like run into a tree tomorrow, I would swoop in to be there for her.
On her doorstep.
I don't even need a night. Just give me a few minutes of just hanging out. I just want to hang out with Cher, man. But that would be fun. That would be a good time. 77, 40 years older. That is epic.
Wow.
So I'm 49, 20. She's 28 years older than I am. Yeah, I'm in on that. Yes. Yes, on Coffee with Cher, S-H-A-R-E. I'll share. I would share coffee with Cher. That's what I would do.
Yeah, I'm sure you would. Oh,
Duke, I love you, man. Good work. All right, we'll keep things rolling here on the Rib City Drive with Dwight and Chad. Coming up next is not Cher. What would it take? I feel like if I ran into her, like I could would she? And she wouldn't even give me the time of day.
No, she'd call the cops. I think.
I don't know if she would. I think she's freaky enough to where she might consider things. Oh well.
Yeah, I'm sure she considers things, but with you,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, because when she just got a taste of my dedication and my desire to
Oh.
please, if she knew how much I aim to please, she would be
Right.
down.
Your fandom is quite a.
It's nothing to do with fandom. My desire to please.
Oh,
I'm just saying. I would have a shot. It's slim, but it would be a shot.
well, you got to do what
I
Travis
would be
Kelce
like,
did. Shoot your shot. man.
You would see me. I would look like Jaden Daniels out there in the field on Sunday. I'd be running around so I could step up in the pocket and deliver a 65-yard strike for the game winner. I'd give my best effort.
Hail Mary.
Hail Mary, baby. All right, Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio in Studio 5. This is a great song right here. Patti LaBelle and Michael McDonald
Oh, this
on
song-
your own. We were just talking about this
yeah.
today.
Yeah.
All right, so I think the guy who wrote this song is Rod Templeton, who was a bigwig in the music industry for years. All right, so let me. Yeah, Rod Templeton. English songwriter and producer and musician. All right, let me see here. On my own. Let's see if I can find the details on this song. Well, I can't find the exact details, but I know the story on it. So Templeton wrote this song, and he was great because he would write songs and had a unique way of finding the right artist that he thought would be the best with the song. He worked with McDonald and LaBelle and a number of other artists, but LaBelle was the one who thought this would be better as a duet, and so she had wanted to work with McDonald, so they reached out to him. They did the song. It became a smash hit.
Yeah.
Now, Templeton also was working with Van Halen. What's the name of the song on the
I'll wait.
84 album? I'll Wait, right? So they were having problems completing the song, so Templeton enlisted the services of Michael McDonald, and so was given songwriting credit for that effort.
Uh-huh.
But originally, when the album was put out, he didn't get credit on the album. I'm not sure Van Halen wanted people to know that they were working with McDonald on the song because he didn't really fit their genre and their image and what they were trying to do.
Right.
But Templeton he's worked with here's a song. This is a song here that Michael McDonald helped complete for Van Halen. This is a good song. You like this song, Shaq?
I love this song. It used to be a theme song for this show.
All right, so Temperton. I was saying Templeton. It's Temperton. Let's see here. Worked with Heat Wave. He wrote songs for Michael Jackson, doing some work with Quincy Jones. He wrote the disco classic Stomp. He worked with the brothers Johnson, George Benson, Patty Austin, Donna Summer, James Ingram, Michael McDonald, Herbie Hancock, the Manhattan Transfer, Mika Paris, Rufus, Shaka Khan, Karen Carpenter, and the list goes on. So that's a heavyweight right there, Godfather.
We don't hear enough Shaka Khan these days. I can tell you
Shaka
that.
Khan's awesome. Man.
Oh, God.
Who was the person that sang at Yankee Stadium last night?
Oh, Fat Joe.
Yeah.
He didn't sing. I mean, he rapped, but yeah.
Is that what they call it? So you're not singing, you're rapping?
Well, he's certainly not really singing.
What did you think about Fat Joe's effort, Shaq?
He's not that fat anymore.
He's not. Yeah, he's taking some pounds off.
Do you have to change your name? Like, if you're no longer fat, do you still go by Fat?
Plain Joe, I think, would what you'd go for. He couldn't keep up with the track. They were playing a track, and he had a little struggle keeping up with it.
That's unfortunate.
Yes.
Kind of foreshadowing what was going to come for the Yanks.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, Aaron Judge can't keep up with the pitches right now. It's painful to watch a guy at the plate who's great struggling.
His timing is off. Yes. Struggling.
Maybe a Dodgers bullpen night's exactly what he needs.
Could be.
Because all it's going to take, I mean, what's his name? Betts was going through a funk until he got a couple of hits and started getting things going against the Padres. Maybe all it takes is one hit, right? Just one good at AB, not even a hit. It could be a one that he hits on the screws right to someone, but just something to get his confidence back, and then Judge can get going.
Oh, once he gets going, look out. I mean, he could carry him to a couple wins.
I love what Millar said. Like, sometimes you just go cold at the wrong time, and there's no rhyme or reason for it.
He's not the first good hitter to have that happen to
No,
him.
last year, freaking Betts and Freeman went ice cold in the postseason when the Dodgers got run out by Arizona.
Yeah. Oh, the Braves have had it happen a couple of times.
It probably feels a lot like when you feel like you have no idea what you're doing with your golf swing.
Yeah.
No confidence, no feel. You're not sure what's going on, and you're just in the middle of frustration until you figure it out.
And the golf ball is sitting there on a tee. Can you imagine if somebody was throwing that at you?
Yeah, if you were throwing like screwballs at me, here, hit this, Chad. Well, you can't get your driver going, you dumb. I can't imagine that.
Yeah, and about 70,000 people in the stands booing you.
I guess the only part that's surprising to me about this series is I did not expect the Dodgers to jump up 3-0 and just take full command. I thought it would be. I thought we were going to be looking at a 6 or 7 game classic, and that's not going to happen.
Yeah, you just never know. You just can't tell.
Man,
that's what's great about it.
You know what's crazy too? The Dodgers looked lost, lifeless going into that closeout game in San Diego.
Yeah.
Throwing a bullpen game. We thought Roberts was insane, which was insane, but somehow they got out of it.
Yeah.
And then they start cruising. And the rest is history.
And the Padres probably had a better team than the Dodgers.
Yeah. And no one's going to remember that because the Dodgers have been on fire.
Yeah.
They got all their big hitters. Ohtani's been great. And you know what's crazy is that you could tell on some of the swings and misses last night that shoulder was causing a little bit of pain.
Yeah,
but I
it's
credit
bothering
him for being out there and gutting it out.
Mhm.
Because even if he's not 100%, chances are he's going to get a walk and get on base.
Yeah. First time up, they walk him on 4 straight. They have no idea if he can even swing the bat. Walk him on 4 straight, then he scores on Freeman's 2-run home run. That was really a bright way to start the game. Golly.
Man, Freeman
Throw
right
him
now.
right down the middle and see what he's got.
Yeah, Freeman's on the opposite end of the spectrum right now from Judge.
Yeah.
Freeman sees everything right now. He's probably going to get another home run tonight. He's on fire.
Yeah, possible.
All right. When we come back, Brian No, Fox Sports Radio, is going to be in studio with me talking ball. And we have Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday. Your chance to win is coming up next. All right, what's going on, my friends? Now 5 o'clock, Chad here. The Trailblazers, they were in Sacramento last night, took their first road loss. DeAndre Ayton has opened up the season with 4 consecutive double-doubles. Portland back at it tomorrow night. Their first trip to the Intuit Dome in L.A. to meet the Clippers. Tip-off at 7:30. Chris Burkhardt will have game day at 5:30 here in your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio, presented by Coors Light. On the diamond, the Dodgers and Yankees. Game 4 tonight. The Dodgers a commanding 3-0 lead. First pitch at 5:08. It's on Fox. Kasparius and Gill will be the pitching matchup. It's Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday. We got a pair of tickets to give away for the Memphis Grizzlies coming up next. And my man Bino, Brian O, Fox Sports Radio, going to join me in studio. All right, see, Brian, no, you're part of the family now because you've been here in Portland for so long. He came in the building today. He's like, dude, you got a vending machine? I'm like, no, we ain't got that. And he goes, well, I need a snack. I said, I got you perfectly taken care of. I just discovered these a couple of weeks ago, Bino. We've got the Bobo's PB&J grape snacks. I know you're going to love it.
I'm looking forward to this, Chad. I'm telling you, this is big time stuff right here.
Yeah.
And grape is my go-to. Are you a grape fan yourself?
I'm a grape and a strawberry fan. Basically, for me, I like all sorts of jelly. And I'm like you, I'm a big PB&J guy because it's such an easy snack to make and go on the way, and you can carry it around all day. So I'll take any flavor, but grape's pretty money.
Yeah, no, grape is at the top of my my chart right there. So that's what I roll with. I appreciate this, man. I didn't know you were going to come bearing gifts today, Chad.
I do.
Very
I got
nice.
everything you
Yeah.
need. Anything you need, I've got for you. And even look at this. We have Mountain Dew,
thank
too.
you so much, Shaq Diesel. You are the man.
You don't need a
Absolutely.
vending machine. We got you fully handled right
know.
now.
Man, I should have just asked earlier. You
All
have
right.
anything? You have a vending machine here? No, but we've got free stuff.
Free
Even
stuff.
better.
Free stuff, the best. All right, before we get to sports and talk ball, I'm sure people want an update. You're in town because you had this storage unit, which you're probably paying a ridiculous amount each month to keep your stuff in. No one likes that. So you want to unload the storage unit, and you're in the process of selling off some of the stuff. You're making progress, but your delays are going to keep you here another week, which is good news for all of us.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Chad. Yeah, it's I got the bedroom set sold yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah, and so it was a whole thing. I had to rent a truck. The lady, very nice lady, Pam, she was awesome.
Yeah.
But she just didn't have a way to come pick it up.
Yeah.
And so I rented a truck. Eric Ringering helped me
Oh, he
last
did?
night. Yeah.
Shout out E.
That's right. Eric was awesome yesterday, and we delivered it and set it up in this lady's place. And so the bedroom stuff is gone, which is great. There's major progress
Because
here.
that was the big hurdle, right?
Yes. Yeah. The bedroom set, that was like 4 pieces, and that was a lot.
Did you get enough in return to make it worthwhile
Yes.
instead of just giving it away?
No, yeah, it was completely legit. I thought it was a
Nice.
good deal for both sides. So, yeah, that's gone.
Good.
Now the focus is the dining room set. And if we could get that sold, we're cooking with grease.
Okay, this is terrific. So great news. And you're almost there then. And then you're going to be able to move on, and you can stop paying that monthly fee for the storage unit.
That's right. That is the goal right here, man, because that just adds up each. I figure all the time I've been paying for that thing, that's probably the most expensive bedroom set on earth. You know, if you think about that, it's not even worth it.
Yeah.
Should have sold that a long time ago, but I didn't have a crystal ball. You
All
know?
right, don't take it from me. Chris Cohn just reached out and said those snacks are legit. So he
Okay.
must do the Bobos as well.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it, man. You
Yeah.
know, I normally don't look forward to commercial breaks. This might be the one time I am.
All right, real quick on the World Series, because you were saying when you first walked in, like, they're not going to sweep them, are they? Not what I expected. I thought it would be a 6 or 7 game series, and it would be terrific. And the first couple of games were great, but it's been much more dominant for the Dodgers. But this stat just got sent over to me. It's truly amazing. So in the World Series so far, Freddie Freeman's got 13 plate appearances. The New York Yankees have 116 as a team.
Wow.
Home runs, Freddie Freeman 3, the Yankees 3.
Wow.
7 RBIs for Freeman, 7 RBIs for the Yankees.
Wow, dude.
There
What
you
were
go.
the at-bats collectively again for those?
13 for Freeman, 116 for the Yankees.
Wow. That's insane. And look, man, Aaron Judge is fantastic, but the guy, he can't do anything so far.
No.
And that's the thing, man. It's like baseball's just such a different sport.
So
But if
different.
you're trying to compare it to football, I was trying to think what would the equivalent be of Aaron Judge, your main guy. He is your AL MVP, and he's doing nothing. That would be similar in football to one of your main guys, maybe like a wide receiver that's just stud, challenging for 2,000 yards. He is shut down. Now what? You know what I'm saying? Like, you'll see that sometimes in the NFL where the Chiefs were hosting the Saints a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And Spags is just going to say, hey, guess what? Alvin Kamara, you're going to do nothing. Now what are you going to do to move the football, you know? And so I just think of baseball, it's a more individualized team sport. But with Aaron Judge doing nothing, he's their horse. And he's doing nothing.
Yeah, and their offense is dependent on the home run of the Yankees. And I was listening to Kevin Millar today, and he goes, hey, I don't know how to explain it, but he goes, in baseball, sometimes you just go cold at the wrong time. Where your approach is right, but you get up there, and all of a sudden you don't know up from down. Like, you don't have a feel.
Yeah.
And he said they're coming hard inside on him, and then they're hitting him with the soft, slow stuff outside, and his timing is all off.
Yeah, I think he's right. It's funny, right? Sometimes in sports, it's often painted as he's choking. And
Yeah.
in baseball, especially, Millar is completely right. You just get hot at the right time. You get cold at the wrong time. Freddie Freeman is a great hitter, but he is scorching hot at the perfect time. He has been unbelievable.
The other example that just came to mind, John Starks in the finals with the Knicks.
Yes.
He had all those open looks, and he just couldn't make a freaking shot.
It's the worst, right? Because you feel that as an athlete. You feel it slipping away. You start to press. You're out of sorts. And, dude, it just snowballs. I don't know what you can do to just get out of that space. Sometimes you're just in it and you're stuck.
Yeah, I think what it is that you just have to manage the frustration, knowing that at some point you're going to break out. The problem is you don't know when. So it could happen tonight. Dodgers are going to go with the bullpen game. All it's going to take for him, it doesn't have to be a home run, but it could be a solid base hit.
Right.
Or it could be one of those balls that he hits on the screws, even if it's straight out of player and it's an out, just getting that feel back of like, okay, I've got this.
Right, yeah.
And then that could turn it around because Mookie was struggling before the end of that Padres series. He got a couple of hits down there, and all of a sudden now he's been on fire.
Right. No, I think you're right. I think just base hit, man. Just get on base.
Yeah.
Like basketball. See one go in.
Yes.
Just get to the free throw line. Maybe you get your rhythm back. Yeah, I think that'd be huge for him.
All right. I want to start with this. Anthony Richardson with the Colts.
Oh.
Now, you have an interesting perspective because you spent a lot of time working in Indy, doing radio there and talking to Colts fans and stuff. But Anthony Richardson's been benched, and Joe Flacco is going to get a chance to play. And I wanted you to hear this. Let's see here. Who we got? This is Ryan Kelly on Anthony Richardson deciding to take a playoff because he was tired.
Oh, gosh.
Not
yeah.
something you see too often from quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, I think we had a conversation about it, and I think he knows it's not the standard that that he needs to play up to, and the rest of the team holds him to. And I'll kind of leave the conversation that we had at that. But I'm sure he's going to take some criticism for that. It's just rightfully so, right? I mean, that's a tough look. But I'm also, he's out there giving it all for his team, right? And it's not always pretty sometimes. An offensive lull the last couple of weeks, just having a hard time getting going at times. I thought we did some good things in the game, but if anybody ever questions how hard he plays, I don't think that's the case. I mean, if you watch his film, we didn't move the ball effectively at times, but, I mean, he's giving it everything for his teammates. So he's young. I'm sure it's a learning moment for him, and I'll leave it at that.
That's Ryan Kelly. Here's Shane Steichen.
Is he starting Sunday?
We are evaluating everything.
Hey, is she still your girlfriend? I am evaluating everything as we speak right here. Yeah. That's wow. That was basically no.
You were talking about the difference in sports a while ago with baseball and being at the plate, how it's different than, something else, shooting free throws or in basketball because it's such a different sport. But, like, football's the same way. Like, we got Joel Embiid just not playing to start the year because he wants to rest, right? And no one really hammers him for it, even though it's a total joke when you're making that type of money. But in the NFL, if you're a quarterback and you ask to take a playoff because you're tired, that's not going to go well, man. In that culture, the quarterback's the one guy that's either got to find a way to hand the ball off or to just gut it out because you take a play off as a QB, the team leader, everyone's going to be like, what are you doing?
Yeah, think about how short is the list of quarterbacks that could get away with that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's maybe
The ones that can
3
get away
guys.
with it would never do it.
That's right. But if they were to, maybe
Yeah,
like
Mahomes could do it.
could
Yeah.
do it, or Josh Allen, as much
Josh
as
Allen
he
could do
runs,
it.
physical player, he just needed a playoff. He wouldn't get hammered for it.
You're right.
But we're talking about Anthony Richardson, who's done nothing, who can't complete passes in the NFL. And he's a top 5 pick.
Yeah.
And he does. No, dude, you're never
No.
going to get the benefit of the doubt with him specifically.
I think it was Dwight I was talking to or someone, but can you imagine being an offensive lineman? You're out there working your ass off,
Oh, right.
protecting the guy,
Good point.
worn out, and then
Yeah.
he's like, I need to take a play off. They could right away the lineman would be like, what are you doing, man?
I know it. I know. And this isn't a running back or a wide receiver. We see this quite a bit.
Yeah.
Where they, tap the top of their head and they need a play off.
Yeah, because
and-
they just sprinted 80 yards downfield.
Right. Or a running back who just got decleated by a D lineman, or you know what I mean? And he's like,
Yeah.
all right, I got to take a play off. Fine. To your point, we're talking a QB. You could turn around and hand it off. Even if it's a passing play, just throw the ball. You don't have to scramble. Like the whole fatigue thing, that should never. And he's a good athlete. This isn't some
He's built like an Adonis.
like if Kirk Cousins took off and ran for 30 yards or something and
Yeah.
was winded. I get it. This is Anthony Richardson. You should never take a play off. That's just, that's
No.
unacceptable.
In 91, there was a season where Elway, Dan Reeves was trying to find a spark in the offense. So he turned the play calling over to Elway, right? So he wore a wristband. They would have the receiver, Michael Young. He would give the sign to the sideline so the coaches knew what play had been called in the huddle. But my thought was, here's a quarterback who just got his bell lit up. He got sacked. He's got to get up and immediately think about what next play he's going to call, make sure the right packages are on the field while he's trying to catch his breath. And yet you got Anthony Richardson out there saying, I need to take a play off. That's not going to work with the NFL.
No, it's
because
not.
it doesn't happen.
I wonder how much that had to do with him getting benched.
Yeah,
Because imagine if that never happened. Is he starting this next game?
probably.
Probably,
Yeah,
right?
because
Yeah.
the coach knows, as soon as he does that, right away the team, no one's going to respect that move. And you got to
Right.
respect your leader, your quarterback, or guys aren't going to play hard for him.
That's right, man. And dude, the completion percentage, it isn't even in the toilet. It's at the next stage lower.
Now, credit to you. You thought the pick, you were concerned about the decision-making
Yeah.
on taking Richardson coming out of college because we're seeing a lot of the same issues in his game today that we saw in the small sample of Florida.
Right. And that's the thing. I never was high on Anthony Richardson. A lot of the Colts fans in Indianapolis didn't like that because they're
Yeah.
hopeful. They're optimistic. They want this to work out. And I was basically like, the guy hasn't played. He didn't throw 400 passes in college.
Yeah.
You start comparing that to guys like Stroud at Ohio State.
Yeah.
There's so many comparisons of dudes where they had in the thousands of passing attempts in college.
Mhm.
A lot more starts than Anthony Richardson. He just didn't have much experience. And he got hurt right away last year. So he's even further behind. So, yeah, it just didn't add up to Anthony Richardson. He's trying to get up to speed at the top level of football we've got. What are the chances that happens? They're not very good.
All right, we'll come back. It's so great to have Bino in studio. We're going to talk about one of the dumbest plays in the history of sport. It was pretty dumb, Brian. Tyreek Stevenson's my new favorite guy on the planet. When you
Yeah.
have Bears fans in the stands saying, dude, you got the play going on, pay attention, that's a problem.
That would be, what's the equivalent of basketball, talking trash to the fans and then getting dunked on
Yeah.
for the winning points, right?
Yeah.
That's, wow, that can't happen.
So we'll talk about that. We want to talk about quarterback narratives because people get stuck on their narrative and they're unwilling to change even when the results on the field indicate otherwise. And then before the end of the show, we got to talk about the playoff expansion because the college football season is shaping up to be nice with 20-plus teams still alive for a playoff berth, and we're about to enter in November. Bino in studio. And when we come back, we got a pair of tickets to give away for your Portland Trailblazers. We'll do that first when we come back.
It's huge. Freeman cracks one deep to right field and gone again. Freddie Freeman floating in the World Series. 4 games, 4 home runs. You gotta be kidding.
You asked the question, are they going to sweep them? The answer might be yes.
I think that is going to be the answer. Well, at least there's a chance. Off to a good start. Dodgers leading 2-0. It's funny because this was a total joke. Yeah, I'm sure Gambling Chad can relate to this, where your jokes turn out to be correct.
Yeah.
Where someone hit me up on Twitter. Do you still say Twitter? You haven't said X
X
yet,
is weird when you say X, yeah.
I feel the same way, but hit me up on Twitter, and it was standard radio stuff, right? Like there are assistant program directors all over the country.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, let's get some baseball talk in here, huh? How about the Dodgers in 5, 6, or 7? And I was like, why not Dodgers in 4? Why is that not one of the options? Totally kidding around. And that might be what it is.
Gosh.
You know? Sometimes the answers are within your jokes.
And it goes back to what we were talking about baseball being a weird sport. Like Freddie Freeman right now cannot miss. He's so on fire and locked in. 4 home runs. He's got more homers now than the Yankees do in the World Series, which is crazy.
That is crazy. So we're up to, 14 ABs for Freeman and 116 for the Yankees. Is that right?
Yeah.
And Freeman has more than the Yankees combined. Wow.
It's amazing. All right, we have a pair of tickets for your Portland Trailblazers. It's Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday, courtesy of your Portland Trailblazers and the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. And for all of your ticket needs, simply head over to trailblazers.com. The Memphis Grizzlies are going to be on town on November 10th. If you would like to check out the Grizzlies and Trailblazers, we'll take the 7th caller right now, 503-248-0620. 7th caller through to Shacker will get a pair of tickets for the Grizzlies and Trailblazers. Fire away, 503-248-0620. 7th caller now at 503-248-0620. We'll get a pair of tickets for the Trailblazers and Grizzlies. Call now, 503-248-0620. All right, going back to Anthony Richardson real quick. What do they do? Because clearly he might have been a big-time mistake in the draft. So can you go back to him at any point, or have you seen enough to know that they've got to look in a different direction?
I think they could give it another shot. But look, man, realistically, the handwriting's on the wall. What are the chances? There are people out there that would be like, hey, he hasn't started a lot of games. Give it some time. Like, fine. But realistically, what are the chances that he learns under Flacco, the pressure isn't the same, he eventually gets to start again, and he's the guy? What are the chances that
It's very
happens?
slim.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like sometimes it's better just to pivot and move on. This isn't like before the rookie wage scale where you're paying these guys ungodly amounts of guaranteed money. $50 million in that day and age was a lot.
Yeah.
So if you're paying I'm trying to think, Sam Bradford, a ton of money, right? And let's say it's Anthony Richardson is making that type of money right here, right now. It's a different deal.
Yeah.
If you've got so much invested with guaranteed cash. You don't now. It's just the draft equity. You don't want to see a 4th overall pick just crash and burn, but you can get out from underneath it if it's not clicking at all.
You're right. I think, and the difference too, like even with Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold, 2 guys that their original teams gave up on, at least I saw flashes from both guys to give me an indication that, hey, under the right situation, they might be able to have good success.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy with Baker, right?
They messed up. The Browns would have been better off just keeping Baker.
They would have been. And that's wild to think about
Yeah.
because he had a really talented team his last couple of years there, and he was still underperforming.
Yeah.
But you give it a little bit more time. And to your point, it wasn't all bad.
No.
There were flashes with Baker, and
You're
there was
right.
some good stuff, but they wanted to pivot, and boy, that did not work
No.
with Deshaun. Jameis looks like the second coming compared to Deshaun Watson. It's
I agree.
startling.
Yeah. Well, it goes to show you, right? The Browns, terrible organization. Jets, terrible organization. They move on from 2 guys who are having tremendous success right now with other teams with better coaching and better organizations.
It's pretty crazy, too, because there are times, I think Baker is a good example, because those Browns teams, his last 2 years, they had a ton of talent, man. They had one of the best offensive lines in football. They had the best 1-2 punch with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt.
Yeah.
They had receivers to throw to. They had Myles Garrett. They
Yeah.
had a lot, and they still underperformed. So I'm thinking of it flipped around. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm thinking of the Browns organization where they're looking at Baker like, we've got pretty much everything. On paper, we should be better, and this guy is underperforming. At what point is it not just us and it's the quarterback
You're right.
too?
And I should give the Browns a little more credit. I'm critical of the Haslam family because they've been proven to be a little bit dumb over the course of time. But I would say that Stefanski in that front office, like they've kind of stabilized the situation there in Cleveland. And you're right. When you look at the roster, they were doing a disservice by playing Watson because those other guys like Garrett and the rest of those guys who are really good, they just need a guy who can go out there and play acceptable football. Even we saw it with Winston, right?
Right.
He gave him a chance to win the game, and they pulled it off against Baltimore.
The last two quarterbacks we've talked about, especially with the Browns have more talent than the Colts do, just
Yes.
roster-wise, top to
Absolutely.
bottom.
It's a good roster.
And it's like Deshaun isn't even average with those guys around him.
Oh.
Jameis looked worlds better.
Yeah.
I know it's one game, but still, noticeable difference. Same thing with the Colts. Flacco went in there, and you're like, holy cow, we're seeing passes being completed left and right. So it's like Anthony Richardson, Deshaun, bro, you guys, you got to step it up quite a bit. And they didn't this season.
All right, Brian No, Fox Sports Radio in studio. Let's go back to Sunday for a moment.
Comes down to one last play. And it's going to be getting longer by the second. You're all the way back at the 30-yard line. Now you can step into it. Here comes the Hail Mary with the game on the line. And the ball is caught! Caught! It's a miracle! It's Noah Brown! Oh, my goodness! This town is going crazy. It's a madhouse in Landover, Maryland. He did it!
That was a crazy play.
Oh.
Commanders get the win over the Bears, 18-15. That ball, 65 to 70 yards in the air from Jaden Daniels, a sensational play. There were numerous breakdowns by the Bears that led to that touchdown, but none more so than Tyreek Stevenson, who, as you and I have seen and everyone has seen, he was running down the sideline, taunting the fans.
Yeah. While the play's going on.
Oh, my gosh. And then when Bears fans pointed like, dude, pay attention, he runs over, joins the play late, and tips it back to Brown for the touchdown.
Unbelievable. That's the thing is, we talked earlier today, and I'm like, listen, you might disagree with this, Chad, but if the same play happens, right, where he's taunting the fans and he's late, but he gets into the play and he swats it, he bats it down. It's the opposite reaction of like, look how good this guy is. He's not even paying attention. He's taunting the fans.
Yeah.
And then he makes the play. Problem is, he didn't make the play.
No.
So he looks like a complete moron, at least for that play. That is the number one bullet point on his NFL resume right now.
No
By
matter
far.
what he does, he'll be remembered for that forever.
Forever. Like, what will he have to do in his career to not be known as that guy? Leon Lett was a good player.
But I remember one play.
That's it.
Yes.
Or you
Two
remember
plays.
the two plays.
Yeah,
And they were both
Thanksgiving Day
horrible.
against the Dolphins and in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and for a player that good, that's what comes to mind.
Yeah.
And
even Chris Webber, who was a terrific college player and great NBA player,
absolutely.
the one image that comes to mind was him calling a timeout that Michigan didn't have.
Yeah. I mean, to think what Tyreek Stevenson will have to do to not immediately be thought of as that guy.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot.
Who was the player? It's one of my favorite moments in the NFL. I think it was Brian Cox, linebacker, when the field goal was going on and he's up there in Buffalo and he had his helmet off and he's shaking his head mad at something like the officials or whatever. And he's like flipping off the fans. And I was like,
Yeah.
And he was a great linebacker, but I'm like, Brian, what are you doing, man?
He was a little loco. He was a little loco over there. By the way, what do you think of this with the Hail Mary? Tony Romo's been getting crushed because he called one thing right and then he called one thing wrong. I'm curious what you think about this because before the Hail Mary, the Washington wasn't even close to midfield.
Yeah.
And so he was like, hey, just take a quick out, gain 10, 12 yards, get closer. And that's exactly what they did.
Yes.
Great call by Romo. Then he said, I might put Mariota in the game right now because Daniels has the rib issue.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure he can air it out the same way.
Yeah.
And Jim Nantz immediately pushed back and said, hey, he's thrown a couple of deep balls today, right?
Yeah.
And then Daniels does what he did. They went, and so people are crushing Tony Romo, like, replace this guy immediately. He doesn't know what's going on. Listen, I don't know where you stand on this. It turned out to be the wrong thing to say.
Yeah.
But I thought it made sense at the time. Before halftime, that's exactly what happened. They could have thrown a Hail Mary, and they didn't.
Yeah.
They just handed the ball off and went to halftime. And Romo said it. They're like, they're protecting Daniels because of this rib issue. So it was interesting they kept him in there, and he aired it out 66 yards, man.
It was awesome. I love Jaden Daniels. I was a big fan of him at Arizona State and what he did at LSU, so I love seeing that play. My take on Romo, I had no problem with the comments about putting Mariota in because Mariota's got a pretty strong arm.
Right.
I just think Romo's a complete disaster in the booth, always talking over Nance. He sounds like he's coked out, and I don't need him predicting what's going to happen before the play takes place. He drives you crazy.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan. But again, when it comes to announcers, we're all weird. Like, I thought Phil Simms was great, and I like Simms, but no one liked him, and they wanted him out of there, so they put Romo in there.
Yeah.
So it's funny how that works. Like, I love Nance, and I can tell that he and Romo have like a true bromance going on, which is kind of nice. But it's like, Romo, I don't need you talking over Nance. It's like, know your role. And just wait until he's done and allows things to breathe, and then you can jump in with your analysis.
No, that's totally fair. I think that
because Nance is he's like the gold standard.
He is. Listen, it just became fashionable or trendy to hate on everything Romo does.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's where you are. I'm just saying I hear so much anti-Romo stuff. I enjoy him. I think your criticisms are totally valid. I would like for him to, like The Rock says, know your role and shut your mouth every
calm
now and
down,
then. Right, just calm down. But overall, I like his enthusiasm. I like when he calls some plays. He called a play in the Washington game, and it's just a very subtle thing. And he goes, this is a running play. And he goes, you know how I know? The wide receiver that just ran in doesn't know the play at all. This is clearly a running play. Stuff like that I like.
Yeah. Romo does bring some insight, things that I wouldn't know or think about because I didn't play the game. He's just so excitable that it's like, dude, calm down.
Yeah, right.
So they'll continue to work with him. I mean, it's no different than Brady. They're still young in the role and learning how to do it. Like the guy that I think got really screwed was Olsen, who was a phenomenal analyst and doing a great job working with Burkhardt and was great in the Super Bowl. But because he doesn't have the name power of Brady, he just gets demoted. And I thought Olsen did a great job. Now, I think Tom Brady, he's gotten better with each week, and I think Brady will end up being great. And I hope he becomes like, I listen to Aikman and Buck, and I'm like, wow, they're so good together.
Yeah.
And Aikman's gotten to a point where he'll share whatever's on his mind, and he's critical when he has to be critical.
Yep.
Hopefully the restrictions on Brady won't prevent that because he's got a chance to be great, too, because he knows so much about the game.
No doubt. I think that I noticed a couple of things with Brady and Romo where they're just overly chatty. There's only so much you can say in 10, 15 seconds, you know, whatever time they have available. And it's almost like Brady has these 8 sentences when there's really time for like 5 sentences or however it works, right? Like they just want to get out all of these thoughts. And it's like, it's almost like your Mike Shanahan offense. It's one cut and downhill.
Yeah.
Right? And they want to cut 2 or 3 times in the hole. And it's like, bro, you got to have 1 point and that's it. Chris Collinsworth is the master. I don't care what anybody says. He is such a great color commentator.
But no one likes him.
I don't
I
get
love
that at
Collinsworth.
all. He's awesome. He's on top of every play, and he's got the timing of explaining it concisely, not cutting into Mike Tirico's time. He is phenomenal.
He is one of the absolute best. And I remember, I've been watching football for a long time, so I remember Collinsworth when he was young in his analyst career on NBC.
Yeah.
He's been great for a long time.
And he was green when he started.
Yeah.
There's
young,
a story.
Very young.
I forget, like he said the wrong team when he was broadcasting a Notre Dame game. He was so freaked out. And I remember Ron Paulus. Remember Ron Paulus?
Yeah.
He threw a touchdown pass, I think, against Michigan. And Chris Collinsworth was like, move over Montana.
Yeah.
Here's Paulus. I forget exactly what he said, but he took a lot of heat for that. But listen, as great as he is right now, there was a time where he was green and he was making a lot of mistakes, and you just have to grow into that role.
Yeah, it's a tough role because there's so much eyeballs and pressure. it does take time, even for the greats. It's a different role. You're not playing quarterback or playing the game anymore. It takes time to learn how to be an analyst. But yeah, Ron Paulus, he got the nickname Beano Paulus because Beano Cook said he would win 3 Heisman trophies. And I love Beano Cook.
Oh, Beano's the best. But, man, you talk about pressure and expectations, and that makes a tough job much harder.
And I was a fan of Ron Paulus, so I wanted him to do well. But I remember Beano Cook was one of the best because I grew up with him on the early days of, like, College Game Day with ESPN when it was him and Tim Brown. I'd be like, Timmy, let me tell you something. A couple of underdogs you've never bet against, the Russian Army and Notre Dame. And I used to love that, man.
He was phenomenal, man.
He correctly predicted in '88. He predicted Notre Dame and West Virginia would play in the national title game.
That's pretty good.
Before the season began, I was like, West Virginia, what are you talking about?
Yeah. And in those
right.
days especially, because it was the Wild West of college football.
West.
It's not like saying I'm gonna take Georgia and Ohio State, and people are like, whoa, that's what it turned out to be. It was a different time at that stage.
Oh, so good. I remember those days. All right, I want to talk about quarterback narratives real quick. Your take on, we were talking earlier today about Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Share your thoughts on Aaron Rodgers and this narrative that has been surrounding him for years in his career.
Dude, this year, it just makes me think of the Rodgers versus Brady debates. How many years, Chad, did people have Rodgers ranked ahead of Brady?
Years.
Many years. And I would look every single time and I'm like, Brady has whatever at the time, 6 rings, 7 rings. Rodgers has 1. It isn't only about that, but that factors in heavily. Rodgers doesn't have anything over Brady outside of mobility. He has nothing. And yet people routinely would rank Rodgers over Brady. And I just don't understand that. It isn't just about talent. Granted, Rodgers is a very, very talented quarterback, one of the most talented in NFL history. But it's what you do with that talent. And at some stage, if Brady has the individual numbers, the team success, the Super Bowl success, all of this stuff is in his favor. How can you still side with Rodgers? Look at Brady, his first year with Tampa, a losing organization. They hadn't made the playoffs in about 13 years or so. Won a Super Bowl in year 1. Now, I'm not going to hold the injury over Rodgers. 4 plays in and the Achilles goes south. But this season, they're 2-6. That's a team that hadn't been to the playoffs in 13-ish years.
Yeah, and look at some of the losses on their slate so far this year.
Terrible.
You
can't be 2-6 with that much talent and stack up with Brady.
No.
Brady had the longevity, individual team accolades, everything across the board. I don't want to hear Aaron Rodgers' name in the same sentence as Tom Brady anymore. Anyone who had Rodgers ranked ahead of Brady at any stage is drunk. His career does not even come close to stacking up with Tom Brady's career.
I agree. And one key thing I loved about Brady is that he had losses in the postseason, but it was rare that he would lose a game in the postseason where his team wasn't the better team. He lost games where they were the underdog and not the better team, but it was rare that you found them in a heavy favorite spot where they couldn't get the job done. The one game I think of is the Giant game in the Super Bowl, but outside of that, the other games that they lost, they didn't have the better team on the field. But Rodgers, look at how many big losses they've had at home in the postseason when they had the better team.
The 15-1 Packers losing to the Giants.
Embarrassing.
At home.
The loss to the 49ers a couple of years ago at home in the snow.
Doing nothing offensively.
Yeah.
Like they scored a touchdown their first drive, and that was it.
Yeah, blowing the game up in Seattle.
That's right.
In the NFC title game.
That was a goofy game for sure with the onside kick, and Bostic thought he was.
And the ridiculous throw by Russ, you know.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, but he's had some weird losses, but, man, like, it's just added up too much in Rodgers' career where a lot of this, we look at numbers, like what are your stats? A lot of this stuff is not numbers related. Like, who is more unifying? Is it Tom Brady for a team, or is it Aaron freaking Rodgers? Again, not even remotely close.
Yeah, I'm real big. Like, that's what I love so much about Elway is that he had a 14-7 lifetime career record in the playoffs. When he got his chances, he capitalized, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with Tom Brady. When he got his chances, most of the time he capitalized. Peyton Manning even had his struggles, his issues in the postseason.
That's right.
In big spots, underperforming, right?
Right.
But
No doubt.
Rodgers is the hype around him. I like Aaron Rodgers, but you're right. I agree with you on the narrative.
And listen, it's not to say he's a dud or anything. It's like, don't put him alongside Tom Brady, okay? Because he's not.
I think with time we'll be able to look back and even have more respect for what Brady was able to do at that level for so long. It's pretty impressive.
It's insane. It really is. And he made it look like anybody can play into their 40s. 45, no problem. It's like, I don't know about that. That guy was a freak. So don't think that any ordinary
and
quarterback.
he could have still played when he shut it down, but he chose to walk away.
He absolutely could have played.
He could still be playing. All right, we'll come back. I want to talk about Russell Wilson and then get his thoughts on this expanded playoff, which is bringing more teams and fan bases into the mix as we enter November. You got the Rip City Drive. All right. Dodgers on top of the Yankees, 2-0 in the bottom of the second. So, no, I was going through today. because I'm fascinated by playoff expansion. I think it's going to be great for all of us. But I went through and I was counting up the teams. If you look at the Big Ten right now, Oregon, Indiana, Ohio State, Penn State. In the ACC, Clemson, Miami, Pittsburgh, and SMU. In the Big 12, BYU, Iowa State, Kansas State, and Colorado. Notre Dame, Boise State. Out of the SEC, A&M, Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, LSU, and Alabama. That's 20 teams right there that still have a legitimate chance to make the playoff. And I counted up the games this weekend on Saturday, 13 games with playoff implications. Like, a lot of times you think something's going to be great, but you don't know it until you see it in action. Like this playoff expansion, it's done the exact opposite than what people thought. It hasn't watered down the regular season. It's made it better.
It's been awesome so far. And listen, I think that the first thought I had when you're rattling off that list is for anybody saying, oh, we don't have the debates anymore. Yeah. Remember how Florida State was on the outside looking in of the 4-team playoff? And it's like, no, we're still going to have debates, right? Imagine if it's down to who you name the teams there. Imagine if Colorado is teetering between being in, being out, and some other team. You're going to have some knockdown, drag-out debates for that 12th spot, which is fun. It's good for college football that the controversy will still be there. It's a different type. We're talking about 12th versus 4th to get into the playoff.
Yeah, what's interesting, too, is that it does mirror the March Madness in basketball a lot, where when the playoff field is set, it's not going to be the 12 best teams in college football because you're going to have teams who will make it based on the conference they play in and get a bye who are not one of the 12 best if you're to stack them up against everyone. But I think that's part of the charm of having these Cinderella types have a chance to pull off a win in the first round or something.
It is kind of weird, right? It's a little like the NFL where you could have a sucky record and win your trash division.
Yeah.
And you get a home game.
Yeah,
no
Tim
questions
Tebow
asked.
did that with Denver and won a playoff game because he got a home game against Pittsburgh. Yeah,
that's right. Demarius Thomas, I will never forget that. But
we're 8-8, but whatever.
Yeah.
We're in.
Dick LeBeau could not have had a more just what did I say? Just unflattering game plan, if you will. Just like I don't think Tim Tebow can throw the ball at all.
Yeah.
We are putting everybody at the line of scrimmage, singling everybody up. That was one of the worst offensive game plans I've ever seen in my life.
There's no question. The Seahawks, I think it was back in around 2010. They won. They got in with a 7-9 record. Remember, they hosted the Saints. And it was the Marshawn Lynch run where he caused an earthquake with that long touchdown run.
I know it, and you've had that. You've had at the time 12-4 teams that will host. That would be on the road for an 8-8 division winner. I don't like that. I don't like that. But same thing can be said for college football. Let's say you win. I don't know. You win one of the Power 4 conferences. And your record isn't as good, and you're lower ranked. You could be number 9 in the nation, but because you won your conference, you get a bye. I don't like that.
I don't either. I just like in the NFL, I don't want a team being rewarded for playing in a crap division.
That's right. That's right. Like, how is it more impressive that you won your sucky conference compared to you were second in the SEC and you're still in the top 5? Like,
no, it's crazy.
I think you should have the bye.
Like who's the division now? So it's the NFC South, right? One of those teams, Tampa or Atlanta.
Right.
They're going to get a home playoff game, and they're not going to be one of the best teams in the NFC.
Yeah, listen, if you have the credentials, if you have a record that stacks up, by all means, host the game. But if a team in the NFL has more wins than you,
like 2 or 3 more wins.
Yeah, like 3 or 4 more wins. Why is that squad on the road?
I know.
Never made sense.
They place too much value on winning a division. What they should do is just reseed the teams after the regular season based on record.
Yeah. No, I would be in favor of that because I just have never understood hey, no questions asked. You won your trash division. I don't want to derail anything, but I'm just curious what you think, Chad, because I'm looking at
derail. I encourage derail.
Okay,
what do you got? What do you got?
I'm just curious, NBA-wise, where the Nuggets right now, they're losing by 9 points at halftime.
Yeah.
They're losing at Brooklyn 72-63. At the half, they gave up 72 points. I was watching a Denver game the other day, and their home broadcasting team, they were like, it's going to take about 20 games or so for this offense to really get going. And they don't have any major injuries. They've got their same nucleus. Why is Denver struggling so much?
Well, I just talked to an insider before you came in studio today, and The issue that Denver has is that because they're paying 4 guys top dollar in Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray, Jokic, and Aaron Gordon, what's happened is with the way that the salary cap is now set up and the punitive damages from being over that second apron, there's no money to be spread out for the rest of the bench, so you have no depth. And the guys that help them win a championship like KCP, they don't have the money to have those quality bench guys anymore. And so what you have is you have a group of 4 guys who you're paying money to, and then you don't have the bench guys or the depth to make things happen.
It's interesting, right? Because, I mean, listen, the bench
and Jamal
is a
Murray
little,
has declined.
Yeah, it's a little light. There's no doubt. But they still have guys. Christian Brown.
Yeah.
It always screws me up the
Well,
way
it's spelled like Braun.
Spelled like Braun, but it's Brown. He's a starter right now.
Yeah.
That's
not ideal.
That's not great. Dario Saric over there, our guy Westbrook.
Yeah.
You're right. The bench is light. It's a little bit like a Phoenix Suns type thing, right?
Yeah, and if you're into the advanced numbers, so far when Westbrook's been on the floor, the points per possession have not been very good. So the new faces, the lack of depth, and trying to figure out that rotation is going to take some time. And, of course, Michael Malone wants to, because they're an older team, he doesn't want to wear the starters out early in the season. So, yeah, they'll get the wins because Jokic and those guys will turn it on, but it's going to take some time for them. But the problem is, you look at the NBA now, compared to a team like Oklahoma City or some of these other younger teams with a more complete roster, it's going to be hard for Denver, like we saw in the postseason last year against Minnesota, to compete in the postseason over a 7-game series when they're playing a deeper team that could throw different combinations of bodies at them.
Yeah, it's funny because we talk about you got to have star power in the NBA to really challenge for a championship, and that's true.
You do.
But if you have no depth,
you got nothing.
Bro, it's not going to happen.
That's why the Celtics are nearly unstoppable this year because they're in this little window before they have to break it up because they're paying out big money to so many guys where they have the entire team coming back, which means star power, depth, coaching, everything you need is right there.
It really is.
And they look awesome right now.
They do. They have such a good thing going. And it's funny how that's changed over the years where it was like, man, Tatum and Brown, they pretty much play the exact same position.
Yeah,
it's like
they don't fit together.
Well, yeah, if they play the same position, it's not bad to have like 6, 7 guys playing lockdown defense.
Dude. It's so funny you mention that because the one game that stands out of all the games I was at last year at Moda Center was because the Celtics, because they only come to town once being in the Eastern Conference. And I'm watching them last year, and I'm looking at Tatum and Brown, and I'm looking at the physicality that they bring against guys like Grant and Anthony Simons, and I'm like, it's not even fair.
Right.
Because they're not small guys. Brown and Tatum are long and athletic.
Yes.
They got 2 of those guys. Teams are killing for those guys. They got 2 of them.
And then on top of it, you've got Drew Holiday, who we were raving about as a defender.
And Derek White.
And the depth, right? You got guys coming off the bench that can hit shots. Peyton Pritchard has found a nice little niche there. Yeah.
He had 28, I think, last night or the night before. Yeah, that's a complete team.
Sam Hauser's hitting like 40%.
Dude, his three-point shot is money.
It really is. Except in the playoffs when I was betting on him, and he let me down numerous times.
Thanks a lot, Sam.
Thanks, Sammy. But no, they really have a great
no
great
matter how
roster.
many shots he hits now, you have a narrative on Sam. He won't pay you when it matters most. I love that.
I swear, I don't think anything's worse in basketball than if you're betting on a 3 to be made and you're waiting and waiting and waiting for them to get a quality look, and they finally get one. Clang. And you're like, bro,
come on, man.
That was our chance. What are we doing?
All right. Well, the good news is Brian Noe has still got stuff to sell, which means he'll be back next week. This is very nice. So, Bino, thanks for the time today, buddy.
Always good hanging with you, Chad. Doing.
Big thanks to Michael Shacker.